on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV.
Welcome in, everybody. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. We got a little bit of echo here. Who's echoing?
I don't know. It isn't me.
Somebody's echoing.
Somebody's got something on.
Somebody's got something on. Does it come from me?
I don't know.
It might be. I've only got the studio on, so it's
No.
something over there.
All right, it's
Well,
gone.
it's gone now.
It's gone. No,
we're good.
it was Jimmy. I saw Jimmy
it?
hit his computer.
Let me see this
That
again.
little sneaky son of a gun.
Again?
It was Jimmy with the echo. I knew it the entire time, and now he's just
We're
clicking
here.
the button to annoy me. Here we go.
You
It's
know,
a
you know what was annoying?
Friday.
That's not annoying.
That's not annoying.
What's
What's
annoying is got sucked into believing last night. All for nothing.
Well, we'll
For a
get to it. We'll get to it. I'm Matt McMaster. I'm joined by Mr. Jimmy
yes.
Chavez
We
to the
have to
left
have
of
some
me.
Speaks today.
Peterman is on the ones and twos today.
Howdy.
Mr. Gary Sharp is currently on the road in Sioux Falls, South Dakota,
That sounds cold.
as the Omaha Mavericks yesterday fell to the South Dakota State Jackrabbits by a score of 85-98. Really, really good half of basketball played by South Dakota State in the second half. Omaha gave it their very, very best effort. They went on a 10-0 run in the first half to cut their lead down, but they're actually trailing by 3 heading into the second half. And then SDSU kind of just took over and won a game by 13 in which they were favored to win by 9.5. Massive, massive game coming up, though, still to play for the Mavericks when they take on St. Thomas this weekend. You can make an argument that this is one of the biggest and most consequential weekends in all of Nebraska State basketball history. The Omaha, well, I don't know. I don't think I have the whole Rolodex of past weekends and where all three teams were playing
Maybe in the file cabinet over there.
incredibly important games. But
you know what? Since you've been here, this is a big weekend.
well, this is
There you
by far the biggest weekend since I've been here. Omaha plays St. Thomas in a game that will decide the top of the Summit League standings. Nebraska basketball, and we'll get to them in a little bit. They will try and bounce back after their loss yesterday to the Maryland Terrapins when they go to Evanston, Illinois to take on the Northwestern Wildcats. And then the Creighton Blue Jays play in their biggest game of the year and their kind of last biggest game of the year until they enter the Big East tournament when they take on the St. John's Red Storm at Madison Square Garden. We got a loaded show for you today.
He's not kidding.
Loaded indeed. We'll have Tim Kruger talking all the brackets at 8 o'clock, followed up by Michael Bruntz, who will be here. He's going to be talking baseball. Baseball opens up today for all three Nebraska teams, Omaha, Creighton, and the Huskers.
I stepped outside. I thought it felt like baseball weather.
Did it feel like baseball weather?
I mean, it was above 0 today, so we got that going for us.
What is ideal baseball weather really?
Ooh, I like this question. All right.
I would say ideal baseball
Give
weather.
me 78 and sunny.
See, I need a little breeze.
There's
Like-
always a breeze.
Like
Light breeze.
I need a breeze out. I need a.
But you want the wind blowing out.
I want the wind blowing out, but I want the wind blowing out to one specific direction. Give me the wind blowing out toward left field, and that way, righties have a lot of have a good matchup and have an ability to hit a home run. I want
I like how you
72
think.
degrees, a little bit windy going towards left field. Not too windy though, not to the point where it's blowing your hat off. But Michael Bruntz will be here to talk about Husker baseball. They begin their season today in Arizona. Then we'll have Mr. Chad Forbes of Draft Bites. He will be talking about, first off, just the overall NFL draft, which for fans like you and me and Peter, who do you root for?
Colts.
Your Indianapolis.
So
Colts.
you're coupled in this as well.
Yeah.
As long as recent history, the draft is like our Super Bowl, where we get a ton of hope. But Chad will also be here to talk about the 4 Nebraska Cornhuskers who got invited to the NFL Combine. Most since 2022. Thomas Fedoni, Isaiah Nayer, Ty Robinson, among those included on the invite. And then at 9 o'clock, Mike Schaefer. And then, as always, at 9:20, we'll have Matt Verzal. The lineup is brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. But before we get on to that, more importantly, Matt McMaster stands tall this morning.
He does,
today.
yes. You got to tell me. You got to fill me in on what happened yesterday.
Well, I
was
just continuing the American tradition of establishing power by renaming things.
I'm proud of
And
you.
So that's what I did. I went to Home Depot. I bought a 2x1 4-foot wooden pole. I grabbed an old white T-shirt that I'm definitely no longer going to be wearing for the rest of my life. And then I
You'll have
bought one of
others.
those really big Milwaukee Sharpies,
Okay.
like one of those really, really obnoxious
Did it smell good?
markers. It smelled awful. That I will never use again in my entire life, by the way. And then I took old-fashioned duct tape. I put that shirt on the pole, and then strategically during the crossover between the Connor Happer show and Sportsmanlike Conduct, I walked up to the mound. I planted my flag, and now it's henceforth should be known as Mount McMaster. And you cannot argue with that because there's a flag that claims the mound. And so
I did go to read it when I got here.
So therefore, that's what it is.
You'll have wind today, so we can see it.
You can call it what you want to call it, but that mountain is Mount McMaster, and that was the point.
It has been claimed.
It has been claimed.
He came back at 2:00 to do this. You have to respect the commitment to the bit.
There you
no nap yesterday from Matt McMaster, which is probably the first time in a couple of months. I'll tell you who will be taking naps today: Connor Segan and Bryce Williams. Brutal. Here's the thing. So yesterday, Nebraska basketball lost to Maryland. It was a really, really tight one. Zero panic. Zero worthy. Andrew can call in. Nebraska ball Mike can call in.
They didn't necessarily play bad at all.
Nope.
Just they couldn't grab the lead. They were right there.
Like you can say what you want, and maybe you can rub it in, but I have zero panic about this team. This was a classic styles make fights type matchup in the Big Ten with Berke Buchtenjel out, and it was one of the very first things that Fred Hoiberg said during his press conference is that they missed their 6'10 guy when they were going against Julian Reese and Derek Queen. It was a bad matchup for Nebraska basketball with the injuries that they had. Coupled on top of that, Connor Segan and Bryce Williams are sick. I mean, Segan.
You mean like physically sick?
Physically sick,
Ooh.
like have the flu.
And they were still within 2 in the last minute. It's pretty good.
It was a last minute. I think it was like half hour before tip. Robin Washut tweeted out that Segan and Williams were going to be game time decisions. Panic immediately flooded through Lincoln, Nebraska, and also Vegas because they needed to readjust that line.
Both get confused for each other.
All the time. I mean, they call Lincoln the new Vegas, right, Peter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Some people say that. But regardless, Connor Segan looked sick yesterday, like visibly sick. And Bryce Williams, all the props in the world, played 38 minutes yesterday, but still, like you could tell that
not feeling well. That much.
And even by the way that he played, and like I think that's why Jawan Gary had to take damn near 20 shots yesterday, was because he had to be the alpha because Bryce physically it was incredibly demanding to do that. And once again, like during this 4-game win streak, you could tell that there's been a different motor, there's been a different switch, there's been kind of a click for Bryce Williams in terms of his aggressiveness on offense. That was not there yesterday. Understandably so. The guy couldn't sleep and had body aches and chills the night before. They had to hook him up on an IV when he came into the trainer's room. Neither of them,
like the one Eagles lineman that had the Bud Light and the IV.
Yes.
Going.
Who was that? Lane Johnson?
No, I can't remember who it was.
I did see.
You could tell he was a dude, so he had earned both.
It was either Dickerson or Johnson. Regardless,
it might have been Dickerson.
I think it was Dickerson. Regardless of the fact.
But this wasn't that kind of IV.
No.
This was the...
No. This was the...
Somebody
I am dying.
Put me out of my misery.
I am dying, and I need it. Neither of them could be in the walkthrough or the film session. So, tough loss.
Mm-hmm. They'll be in bed today.
They'll be in bed.
They'll
be resting up. I'll tell you something right now. You'll get plenty of panic out of me if they lose to Northwestern.
Well, that'll be sort of a double-sided deal for you. Be like, hey, all right, Cats, but
not a double-sided deal.
You can't beat the alma mater.
I graduated from Nebraska.
Oh, look at him!
I graduated.
Put that corn hat on him. It's true though. They got to win Sunday.
And I think a big thing too was it wasn't necessarily just that Maryland had the better matchup. I mean, credit to Willard. He did a pretty good coaching job of getting Queen hard. And Reese in the right positions on offense. Funny enough, Queen's one shot that he missed in the second half was over Raleigh Wooster, who you would think that when he was going up against Bryce Williams and Jawan Gary, he'd be more advantageous to miss it.
Remind me, who hates those uniforms? You or Gary?
I hate them.
Okay,
I think
couldn't
they're
remember.
stupid and they're dumb. But Maryland, on top of that,
The polos.
no, I mean, like,
No,
I
you
get
mean
it. I think some people are a little bit more quiet because they,
Why?
it's
what?
the-
Yeah,
Because of
It's-
what they are.
of what
for.
they're representing. I'm not quiet about it. I don't
he's
get me
saying
wrong.
they could have designed
I
better for the
admire
cause.
what
And that-
cause they're representing. Okay,
And that is very valid.
they just look ugly. They are just
No, yeah.
disgusting.
I mean, Kansas's didn't look much better the other night.
Miami's already having a god awful, terrible, no good, very bad, want to forget about it
Nice.
season, and then they have to
Wear
Yeah.
those.
wear those as well. I mean, it's like the same exact design with like
Tex
it looks
looked
like a
okay.
dodgeball team. Like it looks like they're about to play dodgeball. Like it's ridiculous. Regardless, Maryland, like I said, bad matchup. Couldn't miss either. 63% from the field in the second half. They were making all kinds of ridiculous contested threes in the corner.
And they
One
still
shot
had a chance.
where, yeah, and that's like the big thing too. Like when there wasn't a, oh my God, this team looks despondent against Iowa or Purdue or Wisconsin.
You couldn't leave
or-
early.
Or Bryce Williams goes on this incredible run to send this game into overtime, and he's not even celebrating type of discussion. This was just a they got hammered by injuries. They got hammered by sickness. They got hammered by the fact that this is by far the worst team to be playing when your 6'7" guy is sick and your 6'10" guy somehow didn't break his ankle. Berke Butenjel is in a walking boot. Apparently he's doing much better. We'll see what happens. In terms of their future matchups here, Northwestern is banged up. Brooks Barnheiser is out. Jalen Leach is out. Those two guys are incredibly important to how they play basketball during this golden age of Northwestern basketball. And yes, making 3 tournaments in 8 years is considered a golden age for Northwestern basketball. Go and look it up.
I got you. Yeah, I don't
They
disagree.
play 7 guys. Like they play 7 dudes every single year. And now they're getting to the bottom of the barrel of their rotation. They're playing dudes who are redshirt freshmen, true freshmen, who barely are mid-major basketball players, let alone D1 college basketball players. And that's what Chris Collins does. He gets 7 guys who plays really, really great basketball, and then he develops everybody else who's on the bottom of the bench, and then he brings those guys up into a next round of trying to develop college basketball players. And unfortunately for the Wildcats, they are depleted, and those guys are playing way too early. And Nebraska basketball, despite the fact that they are banged up, and you're hoping that they get Bryce Williams and Connor Essegian
at least those
better,
two get feeling better, and then
they should be totally fine. I don't know what the line is for that game. I haven't looked. I don't even know if it's out yet. I'm going to predict that Nebraska will be a favorite, and they will have to win that.
I'd say a slight favorite just because of the road, but yeah, they'll be favored.
Peter, can you get a line? Is there?
Yeah, let's see.
I'm going to guess 3.5 point favorite.
I'd say 2.5. I like this game.
This site does not have it yet.
Okay.
We're better
Let me
than
do
we
some
thought.
digging.
Do some digging and get back to it. But what
We'll
I
call
mean,
some guys.
they were still in it, like you were saying.
Yeah, they're still in it. It's a 2-point game, and about this time, so at the under 4 timeout, I start my bedtime routine. Hop into the old onesie and get the bed ready for me and the puppy.
You're
and,
a onesie guy?
Yeah, just feet and everything. And no, I'm just kidding. Just I wear a sock. But I, so I'm getting ready for the bed, and then I'm standing at the TV. Well, not at the TV, but behind the couch watching. I was like, all right, 2-point game. It's right there. Also thinking, please don't go to overtime because I am tired, but let's win the game. Let's see what happens. Very impressed by the fact that, yes, with those 3 down, they had every reason to get rolled. Hey, they gave everything they had of that. And yeah, I mean, yes, it's still a loss, but you feel, okay, you can get that one. The bubble is a little shaky this year, but you got to win Sunday. You can't afford any bad losses the rest of the way.
And Hoiberg said that during his post-game press conference where he's like, we cannot afford a skid. We would be remiss to mention the fact that Andrew Morgan's 4th foul was an absolute fugazi. And just an awful call to the point where Fred Hoiberg actually, I don't know if he'll get fined for saying that it was a terrible call at the press conference, but he
disagreed.
But he disagreed with it, and he made it
right.
very clear. Andrew Morgan, though, very, very impressed with what Morgan was doing on the offensive end. Definitely there are some things to be desired on the defensive end. He's not the best defensive option at the 4, but from an offensive perspective, they were doing some really great things on just getting a short pick and roll and then getting him out toward the clear side. And he's a type of guy who, he's a North Dakota State transfer.
Shout out Bison.
Playing in the Summit League, and a guy who is able to get one-on-ones and make teams pay in Power 5 basketball. I mean, it really is really impressive what he's been able to do on that offensive end. He finished yesterday with 15 points, 5 of 6 from the field, 4-4 from the free throw line, only 3 rebounds, though. Nebraska's leading rebounder was Sam Hoiberg, along with Raleigh Wooster yesterday.
Of course, Sam, a regular Dennis Rodman.
Yes, with 4 rebounds each. They got out-rebounded 34-22 yesterday by the Terrapins. The Terrapins overall shot 58% from the field. They had 9 offensive rebounds and 8 second chance points. Funny enough, Nebraska had more second chance points than Maryland at 9. But once again, a disappointing loss. Whenever you are on kind of the outskirts of the NCAA, and I don't want to say outskirts, but you're on the fringe of the NCAA tournament, when you're walking that very fine line between a 10 seed and an 11 seed, you got to win every game, especially down the stretch. And when you have an opportunity to beat a ranked team at home, and
especially when you're undermanned, would have been so huge.
Would have been massive. Would have been so big if they were able to get
bullet.
that. And now they don't. They go to Northwestern. Once again, can't let this skid. Cannot. If they end up going on another 3-4 game losing streak, it's no longer going to be about the bubble being weak or anything like that. That would be curtains. That would be lights out. They are now 6-8 in conference. They have 4. They showed it on the big screen yesterday again on the Big Ten Network, but they still have 4 quad 1 win opportunities remaining on the schedule. So Nebraska basketball didn't seal their NCAA tournament fate yesterday. Gave a great effort, but once again, undermanned and outmatched. Creighton is going to play a massive game this Sunday when they take on St. John's, and another classic styles makes fights type of game. Last year, so let's go back to last year, because
depends what point of last year.
Creighton beat St. John's earlier this season at home, but I think, and I know it's a different team, but last year St. John's beat number 15 Creighton at home. They won that game 80-66. They took 8 3-point shots in that victory.
They pounded it inside.
They pounded inside, and they exposed the mid-range. Pounding it inside against Creighton is not a very smart thing to do. Ryan Kalkbrenner is by far one of the best defenders in all of college basketball.
He defends without fouling, which is an art.
I mean, he is incredible in what he does.
Very, very
in
smart
that
player.
paint. And I'll say it over and over again, it's going to be a really difficult season for Creighton next year, not necessarily because they're losing so much talent with Kalkbrenner and with Ashworth. It's just on the defensive end specifically.
You're losing the focal point of where everything starts.
Exactly.
What they do.
Exactly. And what they've been doing for the last couple of years. I mean, he has been the catalyst of the success that Creighton has had on the defensive end, which has led to the success that Creighton has had overall these last couple of years.
And it covers up a lot of deficiencies when you have a 7-2 guy standing back there. Oh, I lost my guy. Don't worry, he's going to clean it up.
Well, and sure, if Coach Mack came on, he come down and break it all down for us. But
Morning, Mac.
This Creighton team is allowed to be aggressive on the perimeter and on their closeouts and on them trying to steal basketballs and whatnot, because they have such a awesome defender roaming the paint for them. Unfortunately for Creighton, this is one of those matchups where it's very rare you'll have a guy like Kalkbrenner who is so dominant within the paint, and yet there's an offense who can really combat that, and that's St. John's, because you have Rick Pitino, who I think will be wearing all white.
I think Sunday would be a great day for the all white.
For the all white.
Is this a CBS game?
Oh, I do not know. I can look that up later.
I'll get on that.
But St. John's can hammer them from the mid-range.
Mhm.
I mean, they can go in, and John Walker was on here on Wednesday, and he talked about how this could end up being a St. John's mid-range clinic, and that when they go and they do their pick and roll, that drop defense that Creighton is very much well known for at this point in the era of Ryan Kalkbrenner, they can end up taking advantage of it. And what it's really going to come down to is just defensive adjustments on that front in terms of the pick and roll, but also can St. John's hit them?
It's going to be an FS1 game on Sunday.
Okay.
And I
What
was
time,
not
Peter?
able to, it'll be 2:00 Central tip-off.
That's not terrible. All
so,
right.
yeah, a little afternoon, actually double dosage of Sunday
So
afternoon.
I was going to say,
And I was looking there are no lines yet for Northwestern Nebraska.
Okay.
Maybe sometime today, but not currently.
so Nebraska's they're both at 2, right? Or is Nebraska at 2:30 on Sunday?
I believe both 2:00.
2:00,
Ooh,
and
the
then
quad box would be necessary.
well, I'm going double
Split screen?
TV,
Okay.
and then I'm bringing out the third TV for the Daytona 500 on the floor. So probably a KFC and Miller Lite type of Sunday.
Got both. Got 2 food groups covered right there.
And you think that's a joke? That's not a joke whatsoever.
Sounds delicious.
So last game, Creighton beat St. John's 57-56 earlier in the year. St. John's went 25 of 68 from the field. They only took 9 3-pointers that game. They went 12 of 35 in the first half. Creighton didn't shoot the ball that much better, if we're being honest. They went 22 of 53, 9 of 26 from 3. Stephen Ashworth had one of his lesser shooting games that day, 6 of 18 from the field, but it was an absolute slugfest. 57-56 was the score. Sunday's going to be great basketball. So like simple as that. Sunday is going to be really good basketball against 2 of the better teams in the Big East, 2 of the better teams in the country, 2 of the better coaches in the country. If Coach Greg McDermott is able to beat St. John's on the road, not only are you talking about Creighton moving up from right now, they're in the bracket matrix as a 7. Maybe they move up to 6
I think they will.
by the end of. Well, I don't know if they'll move up to 6 right
UConn
away.
Game, yeah. So if they'd beaten UConn, then for sure.
I don't think they'll move up to 6 right away.
But they're getting close.
They will have they have 5 games remaining on their Big East schedule. They should win every single one of them. It shouldn't really even be that big of a competition by the end of that stretch. If they are able to beat St. John's, they should be in that 6-5 range, and then we'll see what they do in the Big East tournament. So, massive game for Creighton. But like I was saying, if Coach Greg McDermott can defeat the St. John's Red Storm on Sunday, I think that'll lock up Big East Coach of the Year for Mac. His competition, his main competition.
To change halfway through what they were doing once Pop Isaacs was out. And people think, oh, yeah, they blew out Kansas. But that team is different than this team. This team is good in a different way. So credit to them for figuring out how to sort of, all right, we're in season. We got to make some adjustments here. And in the end, they'll end up being pretty darn good team. Get into the tournament, and you never know what happens. A couple of years ago, they lose 6 in a row. They end up a 6 seed. And again, one bad call from the Final Four because they got hot down the stretch. That could happen again.
That could happen.
I can't wait for Sunday. You got me excited.
And another thing, too, is I don't know if it was necessarily massive adjustments as much as it was empowering players, and giving confidence to guys. Isaac Trout was a non-factor in Big East play to begin the year. He hits 4 threes against Providence, and that definitely grows confidence. But what continues to grow confidence is when your coach puts that confidence in you,
which he's really good at doing.
Establishes that and tries to build off of that. I think it's very clear with Isaac Trout's play and how important he's been down the stretch and during this winning streak and them being super competitive in the Big East. That's been a big play. Fedor Zugic has been awesome for them off the bench.
It's a great name.
And he's a guy who, just got eligible basically mid-season in December to play. And then on top of that, had to find his way. But he's played a ton of basketball, and his basketball IQ has been something that has been flourishing with Creighton. And as he's getting more comfortable, he's making a bigger and bigger impact. But I think another thing, too, is just guys know their roles on that team. Jackson McAndrew knows what he needs to do in order for Creighton to win games.
They're in sync.
Exactly. Jason Green knows what he needs to do in order to win games. He knows that, hey, any offensive contributions that I give is great, but he's mainly out on their floor because he's super athletic, he's really long, he's strong, and he plays good defense.
Mhm.
Like, there's an understanding of roles on this team, and what it has always really boiled down to for them on the stretch is the fact that Jemiah Neal has emerged and developed into a really reliable. He's inconsistent at times, but has just gotten better
I like him.
as a player overall. And I think a big moment for me with Neal was obviously like he went on that great stretch before they got into this kind of murderer's row against UConn and St. John's and Marquette. But again, in that Marquette game, he struggled a bit in that first half. But then they end up closing out that game, and he was a massive part of that, gave them a ton of momentum down the stretch. Some of the plays that he made at the end of that game gave the Chi a ton of energy that helped boost that team to win that game against a good Marquette team. He scored 10 of the team's last 22 points in that contest. And I think that's a great sign of maturity and development from a young player like Neal, who, when you struggle throughout the most of the game, but then when the going gets tough and the coach puts the ball in your hands and you can go on a run like that and you can help boost your team toward victory, that shows me that, okay, this is more than just, hey, we're holding on for dear life, hoping that Jemiah Neal can play well in order for us to win. It shows me that that's a guy who is a really good basketball player, but also his coaches can trust. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen from Coach Mack this year is that just
Trust. You hit the nail on the head.
It's been about trust. He trusts Stephen Ashworth. He trusts Ryan Kalkbrenner. He trusts the other starters and the guys coming off the bench. And more importantly, his guys trust him. And this fan base trusts him. And how could you not? I mean, after all this that he's built through this program.
That's why I said even when they were struggling, it's like they're going to be all right. Mac's going to figure out what he has and then move the chess pieces around and look at this. They have another good team.
But I think what needs to be said here is that, okay, what did you just say? Hey, we got to calm down and Mac's going to figure it out.
Yeah, because you have ultimate trust in what he's doing.
But we have to realize here, that's a sentence that not a lot of people can say about their basketball teams, right? Indiana basketball cannot say, hey, we just got to calm down. Woodson is going to figure it out with a straight face.
Yeah, Darren Woodson has more of a chance of figuring it out.
It's a good one.
Rod Woodson.
It's very few and far between how many teams can really sit down and calmly say, hey, our head coach is so good that even despite the fact that one of our more important players, who's our secondary ball handler, who went off against the number one team in the country, who helped us secure a signature win, despite the fact that that guy is no longer playing for the rest of the year, our coach is going to figure it out. There's not a lot of teams that can say that. Mm-hmm. He's one of them. And Creighton Blue Jays fans can say that, which is why...
And if he doesn't, you're shocked. You're like, I mean... What did we miss?
Yeah.
It rarely happens.
And I would say that even if Coach Mack had beaten St. John's and St. John's hadn't lost to Nova, the crown of Big East Coach of the Year probably still would have went to Rick Pitino. The fact that St. John's did lose to Villanova and Creighton is on the cusp of being number one in the Big East if they were to beat St. John's.
That's phenomenal.
To me, it's a no-brainer that Greg McDermott ends up being the Big East Coach of the Year if they end up beating St. John's. And then, you still got to win those 5 games down the stretch.
Right.
Granted, they're playing Seton Hall, Butler, and DePaul amongst other teams. So I think they're going to be okay. Another massive matchup this weekend for the Omaha Mavericks. They play St. Thomas. Tough loss yesterday. I think entering it, you were hoping, man, go 1-1.
Right. That's a tough game all the time, and there's a reason why.
They're both tough games. It's both two really good teams on the road in a league where home field advantage or home court advantage matters massively.
Home tundra advantage.
Tony Osborne and Markel Sun both played pretty good games yesterday, but just wasn't enough for the Mavericks to overcome the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. It reminds me a little bit of this back-to-back on the road playing top in the Summit League. It reminds me a little bit of like a baseball doubleheader where you enter it, you're like, okay, I hope we go 1-1. But it's one of those things where it's like if you win the first one, you're like, hey, it wouldn't be too bad to win the second one here,
or in
wouldn't
the playoffs, you win game one.
Wouldn't it be a little bit more advantageous to go 2-0 than 1-1? But unfortunately for the Mavs, they lost yesterday, so now you play with a little bit desperation to stay at top of the Summit and give yourself the best possible path in the Summit League tournament, because that's what it really boils down to, right? Like, it's a one bid league.
You need to win the tournament.
You need to win the tournament.
Unless you're playing St.
order to
Thomas,
get in.
and then you have a little more leeway because of the little rule there.
So,
but why leave it to that?
It's not the second place team, though, that gets in to the Summit League
No,
tournament.
it's a conference champion.
It's the conference champion.
So you
it's
just
the
need to win
regular
everything.
season champion. So if you win the regular season championship, then you're hoping, and maybe you're like, all right, it wouldn't mind if St. Thomas got in.
We can't
to-
officially say that, but
to the-
go Tommies.
Yeah, I guess. But
I mean, we're going to beat them if we play them, but go with go down.
Yeah, I don't know if Chris Crutchfield is going to get on the microphone in front of the press conference and wave his purple St.
Right.
Thomas
It's like
pennant and say, "Go
wearing
Thomas."
a hoodie that
But
says St. Thomas.
I don't think he's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be a high school signing day reveal where he takes off the Omaha sweater and reveals a St.
No,
Thomas.
in all seriousness, it's
But-
up, boys. Let's win the conference.
Well,
and then
yeah.
go from there.
He's not Lane Kiffin, who's on live on ESPN on game day saying "Go Tigers" because he knows that in order for his team to get in the SEC championship, they needed to win that game, which I don't think they did. Regardless, massive weekend of hoops upcoming.
Good, because it's
for
be cold. We need
Black,
warm thoughts.
red, and blue Nebraska. Just a massive weekend of sports incoming. Just good slates. You got the 500. You got college basketball. Pitchers and catchers are reporting all across baseball
Yes.
pretty soon.
Yes.
Things are turning up. The four nations. You got on Saturday, USA versus Canada.
Oh,
yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's the biggest rivalry going right now.
That'll be
supposedly.
a massive game. USA looked yesterday. Shout out Omaha's Jake Gensel, who scored yesterday.
Got on the score sheet.
Awesome goal. Did you see that goal?
Yeah.
5-hole, but it went top. Oh, I was about to say something I couldn't say on the air. There's some slang that almost came out of me from my hockey days.
Hockey brain.
Yeah, he almost went all hockey.
Top tees Bardowskis is what we used to call it. Don't look it up what the T is. But good slate of sports upcoming. Good Friday. We're loaded. Tim Kruger, Michael Bruntz, Chad Forbes, Mike Schaefer, Matt Verzal. All coming up for you here
And
on
you.
Gary and Matt. You're listening on 1620 The Zone. So many interviews. So many. Keeping it rolling here on this Friday. You're listening to Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. No Gary. Currently on the road as the Omaha Mavericks were having a historic season. Fortunately, yesterday could not get their 5th win in a row. And I think it would have been...
Those Summit games are fun.
They are.
They're not low scoring. They're not boring. I've done some of those before. And yeah, 98,
I will
85.
admit, before I came here to Omaha, I don't know how many mid-major basketball games I've really sat down and watched
That's okay.
in my life. I've always looked down on it a little bit. And I think like when you're naturally just like watching the Big Ten and the Big East and the Big 12 and the SEC, and you're just watching power basketball, and you hear about these lower conferences that only get one teams in through winning their tournaments, and they're consistently 15 and 16 seeds in the tourney, you don't really think much of it. And then now being here and following Omaha very closely, in part because we talk about them, but also
they get
because
addicting when you watch them.
it is super competitive. It is like when you get these
Dallas.
top teams, you got guys who it's like, man, it's life or death, and they are like fighting for it, and coaches are fighting for it, and like it is good competitive basketball. And like I got like joked around because I bought Summit League Plus, and I'm like, you know what?
You have the last laugh. You may
Well
see some of
worth
that
it.
basketball.
Well worth it. I use Summit League Plus more than I use Big Ten Plus. Not a joke.
No, I believe that.
Not a joke.
Yeah.
I use Summit
Doesn't
League.
surprise me.
I use Summit League Plus more than I use Big Ten Plus. It's been a hell of a purchase, and it will be a hell of a purchase when I watch the Mavericks.
I think the jury is continuously out on Big Ten Plus as to the quality.
But
of
like
what I know what it is. Like it's a lot of it's in-house. Like
It's
student
great for the
productions, but
students because you get, and I you know that all
Yes.
too well because it
And-
gives you a laboratory that your peers, not all of them have. So
Yep.
that's great.
Nebraska's Big Ten Plus is phenomenal, and well, I got to work with a lot of people. I got to do a lot
that's
of cool
true,
things
yeah.
with it, but then there's just some schools that unfortunately put like zero thought into it or effort, like
Those are not the broadcasting
running
schools, kids.
one camera baseball game. Like it's just okay. Like
No, the Nebraska Big Ten Plus is. So,
Yeah.
funny enough, I'm not too far removed from working on those broadcasts.
Mm-hmm.
They're nice. Like Nebraska.
Well, that picture you hate, isn't it, from one of those
no,
games?
that's from radio. That's from radio. But I announced about, I think it was, I want to say, I announced about like 3 to 4 Big Ten Plus games a year. It's an awesome medium, for students to like go on there and broadcast and work on their craft. And
Mhm.
like, if you are, and like Nebraska takes it very seriously. So like a lot of women's basketball games early on in the year are on Big Ten
Mhm.
Plus, and like those games get good production and get good broadcast.
get good
which is
tape
really
out of
good. You get
college.
good tape. Like it's great. But it's like when you get into conference play, not only just men's basketball, but women's basketball, like the important games are going to be on TV. So
Mhm.
then like it really just becomes a forum for like wrestling. Like if you want to watch wrestling, you get Big Ten Plus, which yes,
do the kids get to do that too, or
I
know the
think so.
production they get to do that.
Pretty
'cause
sure.
that- I mean,
I'm pretty positive they do. I know gymnastics. I was asked to do gymnastics one time on Big Ten Plus, and I
Yeah.
go, I have never watched one meet in my entire life. I go, I will do it. Like I will announce gymnastics if you want me to read or do gymnastics, but I don't know. Like it, I think a triple cow sow is something, or is that in figure skating? Like I have.
that sounds like a strong drink.
I'm not giving myself enough
Triple
credit.
cacao.
I've watched enough Olympics to kind of know what's going on in gymnastics, but not enough to put myself on the stage of announcing on Big Ten Plus. We go to the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, we do
emails.
banking differently. Matt at 1620 The Zone, Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. Are you Peter at 1620 The Zone?
I do not get any of the Equitable inbox.
Hey,
stuff,
why not?
but
You should get emails. Zach types in,
Hi,
which I'm
Zach.
surprised that we did not. Did we get it earlier? Zach email? No, we didn't. We unfortunately did not get an angry Zach email, which is something often.
Hopefully, you don't get one Sunday because then
I
you're gonna
think
have a
that's
different
the best
conversation
thing we
Monday.
do after Nebraska basketball losses. Is Zach emails in with a very, very angry email, and honestly, we get them during wins as well. But I'm going to be real with you. Zach is a ball knower. Like Zach types in,
Knows
and like he actually does make some pretty good points.
Every time I
Um,
say rink mass, I think of Zach.
The subject is very impressed with Morgan. LOL. dude is such a stiff. I've never seen a post player that is less of a threat to protect the rim on defense and who is less of a threat to get a defensive rebound. Seriously, anytime Morgan was in instead of Mia, and any Maryland player was able to get to the rim for layups all night long. Zach, there's no pushback there. Like I said, there are some defensive deficiencies, like I said in the first segment with Andrew Morgan.
And that's
I give him a ton of credit for how he's able to play on the offensive end and how he's able to play in the post. But there is a reason why Berke Buchtengel was starting over him, despite the fact that Morgan is a much better offensive player. And that's because, it's just he's not as great on defense as he is on offense. And when you're playing a team like Maryland, I totally agree with you. Derek Queen and Julian Reese and even some guards were able to get to the rim pretty consistently. And it's one of those things, like I said, like Andrew Morgan is awesome off the bench because there are moments where you can bring him on the court.
He gives you what you need.
And he can bring you a spark, and he can really carry that second unit at times if he's given the opportunity. And he's one of those players where he kind of needs to make his first couple of baskets for the coaches could trust him to be out there for longer. Once again, there's a reason why I was screaming from the rooftops that Berke Buchtengel was out because he, especially from that matchup yesterday, what Berke lacks on the offensive end, he provides in the defensive end. Yesterday was one of those games.
Might have been enough.
They needed more defense than they needed offense in that regard. There are other games where you need a little bit of Morgan and less of Berke, which sounds like a 60s Moroccan song. A little bit of Morgan, less of Berke. But regardless.
Related to the girl from Ipanema.
What?
You never heard of the girl from Ipanema? You're an old soul. I thought you would have. It's a 60s song, so it would have been just like your one that you just came up with.
No.
Oh.
No.
See, I can't keep up with you. Some things you do know, and I'm impressed, and some things
I think I'm the ultimate 8-year-old and 60-year-old all wrapped up.
That's probably why I like you. I can relate to both. I can relate to the curmudgeon, but I can relate to the 8-year-old too.
Joey texts in to the Equitable Bank inbox. Yeah, Summit League. Yeah, I agree. I wasn't into much of the Summit League prior to the last 3 years when I had family playing in the league. Good, underrated players all throughout the league. I'm glad locally folks are paying attention now because of Omaha. I am glad too.
It's a fun watch. I'm not just saying that.
You know,
especially if you're not happy with your options at that. Ooh, there's a Summit League game. Let's watch that. I might like it.
Well, like Nebraskans like sports.
People forget this.
Like plain and simple. And it's always been one of those things with a lot of, and which is why I've fallen in love with the state and why I'm very happy to be here.
Right. They love everybody
because it's like
they support everybody.
If you win, regardless of what school or what sport, people are going to care. People are going to pay attention. Like,
this extends to the high schools too.
Exactly. So it's like one of those things where it's like, it's good. And I don't understand why. And Gary has really hammered it home that there is this Dakota bias in the Summit League.
They're just envious because we live in the Miami.
The
of the
Summit League is supposed to be the Dakotas League, and there really isn't that much glamoring and excitement over Omaha and the intention they've been bringing to the Summit League because it hasn't been a Dakota school. But I think that's absolutely stupid because people are watching now. People are paying attention. Barstool Sports is writing about the Summit League. Scott Van Pelt is doing, a close-up, one-shot, 1-minute vignette about Omaha basketball. And, that is related to the Summit League. And, whenever you're just in one of those positions where a league like that gets one bid, that it really just comes down to the conference tournament. The more attention you get, the better for you, man. And honestly, at that point, I'm not complaining about who's getting what attention or whatnot. But it'll be really, really big for Omaha when they play St. Thomas on Saturday at 7:00.
Ooh, a night game. All right.
So St. Thomas is a real 3-point shooting team. They like to launch it from deep. When they came and they played at Baxter Arena against Omaha, they really weren't able to get it going until very late in the game. Omaha controlled that game for, I would say, about 38, 37 minutes. And then St. Thomas made a little bit of a run at the end of the game. And you were kind of sitting there. I was at the game and I was thinking man, how is this a competition right now? How is this getting a little bit dicey? But they were able to pull it out. I think off the top of my head, Markel Sutton had a really good game. in that performance. Zach's writes back on Andrew Morgan. Morgan is the post version of CJ Wilcher. He's good offensive spark off the bench, especially when he can match up versus the opponent bench players, but such a liability on defense that he just needs to be on the floor on spurts. I think that is, once again, Zach gets mad and Zach gets angry, and Zach will write in a fiery email that we'll get at 12:40 in the morning. The guy knows ball. Couldn't agree more.
He just wants his team to win at the end of the day. I don't think that's
just win,
a bad
baby.
thing at all. Yeah.
Just win,
Al
baby.
Davis was on to something.
Just win.
When he was
That's all
still
that matters.
with it.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Just win. We got a hell of a lineup coming up for you today. Tim Kruger at 8 o'clock. He'll be talking about brackets. We'll see how it adjusted. So yesterday it was interesting. Nebraska had an opportunity to help out Creighton. Creighton is sitting on a 7 line when I checked bracket metrics yesterday, who was sitting on the 6 line and near toward teetering out of the 6 line into the 7 line was Maryland. So if Nebraska was able to pick up that victory, that might have knocked back Maryland to 7. And if Creighton if they're able to beat St. John's on Sunday, they would have been able to get up to 6.
So Fred was playing chess. Screw Creighton over.
Well,
there we go.
I don't know if Creighton,
he listens to
we
the
were
zone.
joking about it. We were joking about it on, what was it, Monday?
I think so.
That Creighton and Nebraska are both sitting on 7 and 10s, or Creighton's at a 7 and Nebraska's at a 10 on bracket matrix. And we were joking around about, this is scary. This could happen. But as the days have moved forward, we are getting a little bit closer to that reality as the games move on and neither of these teams are able to move forward or move back. So if Creighton loses to St. John's on Sunday, it'll be a whole week and we will still be sitting
We're back
in that area where Creighton could be playing Nebraska in the first round. That would be absolute Armageddon. 8:20. Unfortunately, Michael Bruntz, the sickness that has moved from the basketball team has invaded Nebraska media. He's feeling a little bit under the weather. Get better, Bruntsy. We'll see it. We'll get him on at some point to talk baseball. So he won't be on at 8:20, but 8:40 we'll bring on special guest Chad Forbes of Draft Bites to about the upcoming NFL draft, the Nebraska Cornhuskers that are in that NFL draft. Mike Schaefer at 9, Matt Verzal at 9:20. Don't go anywhere. You've been listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Sorry, that's
It
probably
cracked
easier
me.
to do when I'm on the second microphone and not the first microphone with the responsibility of introducing the show. Hey, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Gary and Matt here out 1620 The Zone. Gary,
Something.
something. Is that what I sound like? Was that your impression of me doing that? Gary on the road. Currently, I don't know. Is he on the road? Is he in a bus? Where is he?
I bet he's in a
Yeah, I don't
bed,
know
right?
what
No,
they're
knowing
traveling.
Gary,
Can you make him
here's
on
the
a
thing.
plane? Can
One,
you make him in a
Gary
Planes,
doesn't
trains,
sleep.
and automobiles.
Yeah.
Gary doesn't sleep. And two, when you're used to getting up, as you may have found out by now, you find yourself waking up when it's not a work day early. Now, that doesn't mean you get out of bed. That just means, why am I awake this early on Saturday? And then you realize it's your body clock. And if it hasn't, it will soon enough, which comes in
No, I
handy
can't.
in
I
football
can't sleep
season.
in.
Oh, there you go. So you'll be, see, you could do 9 a.m. football, but yeah, I think he's awake. He's enjoying some subpar coffee, or maybe he's headed down to the continental breakfast there at the Sioux Falls Ritz-Carlton.
I over under right now is set at 80.5 for his current thermostat.
Oh,
Um,
Over.
You think over?
Oh yeah. During the summer. So we had one of our hottest days of the summer during the CWS. I may have hit 100 that day. His place, he was down at the Village all day and then at the ballpark. He said when he strolled into his house that night at 11 something, it was 87.
Oh, Gary.
So he sleeps in the Boston Garden, basically.
Happer told me that he
Didn't they room together?
doesn't put on his air conditioning in Florida.
No.
When he goes to Florida, and
He didn't
when
turn it on
goes to
here
his-
last year.
Yeah, when he goes
At
to
all.
his residence out there, he doesn't turn on.
The swamp environment.
It's a swamp. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you right
Gary
now.
Sharp has more in common with Bill Snyder than
Now
people think.
we host the morning show, so I don't know how many times we're going to do a remote or take the show on the road, and I don't know if there's ever going to be a situation in where he and I are rooming together, which would be so funny.
There's
Which I know
content.
that oh my god, I
We
know
need
that
to push to send you somewhere.
Nick Grimm would put a GoPro on me in order for the
Yeah, I
for
want
that
no
video
part of the trip.
content.
Live stream.
He would be it would be a live stream 24/7 of how are Gary and Matt living together. That would be something.
Bruce Pearl and then somebody bundled up like Kenny from South Park.
Well, so here's the thing. So that's why I think it's so funny that Gary and I are hosting together, because Gary, like we've mentioned, is a cold-blooded alligator who doesn't care about the heat, who prefers it to be super, super, super ridiculously hot. And I am someone who I love the cold.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than putting on a hoodie.
I do like putting on a hoodie.
There's nothing.
I'm not a
now,
fan of
you
the
wear
cold
a
anymore,
onesie.
but-
I mean, they call me the child. I mean, you're wearing a onesie to bed. That is crazy.
Feet. Yeah. No, I told you I wear a
love
sock.
the cold. I love the cold. But Gary, probably in his 87-degree Marriott, which, by the way, kudos to the hotels and their ability in South Dakota, where it's probably like negative 14 degrees for their hotel rooms, could get up to that ridiculous heat. So they must have some incredible electric grid out there that is powering those.
Well, there aren't a lot
hotels.
of people up there, so yeah.
So fair enough. They have to have something going for them. And so far, typically I like to joke around that's not Summit League basketball, but they got the last laugh yesterday when they defeated the Omaha Mavericks by a score of 96-85. 11 points, covered the spread, 9.5. Good thing I didn't bet it. Hey, everybody's favorite thing came out yesterday, the highest paid athletes in the world. Can you guess who the highest paid athlete is in the world, either of you?
Is it one of the soccer ball players?
It's going to be a soccer player, I think.
They make a lot of money.
Would you like to guess which soccer ball player?
I'm gonna say Ronaldo because of his Saudi contract.
I'll say Ronaldo because that's the only one I know, other than the guy in the commercial that's from the U.S. He's like the big deal.
Pulisic.
So
Yeah.
Ronaldo is number one. He's making
Yeah,
200.
That Saudi deal is insane.
$260 million in one freaking year.
Man, if you can get the Saudis
$260
to
million.
donate
Now,
to your collective.
Yeah, it's nuts.
here's the thing. Who is number two? When I saw this, I was shocked. I was perplexed.
So it's probably
So it's not
someone I wouldn't
Mahomes.
expect.
Yes.
Because you would expect a Mahomes.
'Cause
Is it a
typically-
baseball player?
No. Typically, these lists in the history are like the top four are soccer players, right? It's
Yeah.
typically like Ronaldo, Messi, and then
Messi,
whoever
yes.
got that sexy contract that year. So one year it was Neymar, another year it's been Mbappe. Like
Yeah.
they go up and down. One year was Luis Suarez. Like these guys get, like, there's always that one sexy guy that gets that massive contract, but it's not a soccer ball player. It's a basketball player who's at number 2.
Oh.
LeBron?
No, not LeBron.
Who the hell else is
Who's
making
got
more?
the big NBA contracts right
All of them.
now?
Theo Ratliff?
Jokic? His deal's not that
It's
rich,
Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is making $153 million this year.
And that's just the contract?
And so he's $53 million in salary. He's $100 million in endorsements.
Okay, that's the
True.
endorsement.
He is everywhere.
What the
'Cause
hell is he making? Who else giving him
It's-
$100 million?
I think a lot of it might be that Under Armour deal that he's got. 'cause
Really?
I don't really know any other athletes
Awful
that
shoes.
any other like high profile athletes that have Under Armour as their shoe.
He's been playing
provider.
better. Jimmy Butler has been a massive addition to that Golden State Warriors team. I didn't think I would be saying that at the beginning of the year, that Jimmy Butler has made a massive impact for the Golden State Warriors. But I'm not going to go as far and say they're a dangerous team in the NBA right now, but very interesting things happening in the Western Conference, especially with Luka and the fact that Nico Harrison. I thought that the Dallas Mavericks GM Nico Harrison might have a little bit of a grace period in terms of, all right, let's see, let's figure this out to
That's
see
over.
if Kyrie and Anthony Davis can figure this out. Because, hey, there was a guy on ESPN, Lyles, I forgot his first name. Regardless of it, he said that even if Dallas were to win an NBA championship, this still would be a bad trade, which I couldn't agree or disagree with anymore.
Yeah.
If you win an NBA championship,
Yeah.
that's
That's kind of the point.
that's the whole point.
anything,
You did
it
what you
validates
needed
you.
to do. Like, you will never get me to agree with the thinking that the idea or
Yeah, we won a
possibility to win
title.
3 or 4
It's a failure.
championships
I-
is better than winning one for sure.
I'm not saying it's a 1-to-1 comparison, but that kind of reminds me of the Raptors back
Well,
when they got their championship.
I'll give you a better one. I know it's across sports, but the
So-
Rams, the LA Rams,
Yeah.
I mean, they sold all the first round draft picks they could ever have, not only just to get Matthew Stafford, but to get Jalen Ramsey as well.
Like
I will
97
never be-
Marlins.
I will never be the guy who is going to be like, oh my God, well, we won one, but I would have liked to have had the possibility to win 3 or 4. Now, granted, you got to understand where I'm coming from and where I grew up and like the teams that I rooted for. So I'm going to take every championship in stride and celebrate it like it's the last.
He unfortunately
But-
didn't get to see the Bulls 6, which he would have loved.
I would have. But then now I'm glad I didn't see it because I would even be more pissed off.
Plus, you're
watching what
young.
the Bulls are now. Yeah,
I'll
that
take
is
being
true.
young.
You'll take being young over
Yeah.
watching. I don't know the six Jordan titles.
You remember
don't
that
know.
when you're eating that awful thing at 2 a.m. after you've been out and you're like, I honestly feel like I could eat another one. Whereas
Let's get
today
another.
it's, so this
I
gives
would
me
have been
heartburn.
young at some point. I would have liked to see. I disagree with you. I would have liked to see the Jordan Bulls win 6 championships.
Well, as someone who saw them, I will say they were nice.
They were nice. Yeah, I'm sure they were nice to watch.
They were good.
But regardless, I thought there would be a little bit of a grace period with Nico Harrison, and there would be a little bit of optimism of like, hey, the Dallas Mavericks in the short term look pretty good, and they can end up winning the NBA title. Hell, this is a team that made the NBA championship last year and was 3 games away from winning a title. No. Anthony Davis goes down with an injury. They have a whole roster of big men essentially that are down with injury right
Their
now.
1, 2, and 3 centers are
You-
all
you-
out long term.
You have riots going on the outside of the stadium. You have
threats.
threats toward. You have heightened security for the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks.
You know who's loving all of this? Jerry Jones. Because it has
Ooh.
taken all the attention away for a few days. Don't worry,
Yeah.
it'll come back.
do it with family?
Soon as
Make sure-
soon as
you're
Kellen Moore
you're
starts
gonna do
winning.
it. You're gonna do it. You gotta do it with family.
That's what they
Do
say
it
in the South.
together. Do it together. Got to make sure you hit the glory hole. It's all about the glory hole.
It
No.
usually is.
So the Mavericks are struggling. Can you guess who number 3 is on this list? And this is going to go on a bit of a
Number
rant
3.
as
Uh-oh.
to what is wrong with this specific sport. And I think by prefacing it like that, Jimmy knows exactly what I'm
Yeah.
going to say. It's
Talk.
this is
Does
exactly
it have to do with deferred money?
no.
Oh.
But this is exactly
Oh,
what
oh,
is
I know.
wrong
Oh,
with this sport. What is it?
Oh no, I said that'd be a good fantasy team name.
What?
Deferred money.
Deferred money would be a good one. It's Tyson Fury and boxing. Made $147 million this year. Can you guess how much money in endorsements that $147 million
Only
is
because his
from?
name is Tyson.
Can you guess? Can we guess how much of the 147 million?
Did he
106.
Did he have like one fight this year?
He had one fight.
Because he's retired now, isn't
He's
he?
retired. He had one fight.
Oh,
And then he
106.
lost.
126.
He made $7 million in endorsements. He made $140 million
To not fight?
on one fight. On one fight. This is exactly what is wrong with boxing.
Man,
It's
he doesn't feel like
absolutely-
that big of a draw,
Right.
though.
Rocky just got brain damage for fighting Drago. He didn't get anything. That was on yesterday, by the
CTE,
way.
that's
It's just crazy to me that how there is just almost zero interest in the fight game right now, not UFC included. Boxing, there's almost zero interest in boxing unless you're talking about Omaha's own Bud Crawford, who can't wait for that fight in Vegas in September.
We got to send you.
Yeah, we got to figure that out. I want to go. To
I'm
a
all
big
for
fight.
Matt in Vegas.
Yeah, that talk once again. Get the pro. I'm telling you right now, if Nick Grimm wants to make good content, put a GoPro on me. Let's just figure it out.
It's a young man's game. We need to send you to Vegas.
Just see me lose it all.
I thought you were on a heater a few weeks ago.
Hey Matt, do you want the we got it sponsored, we sold it. Here you go. Here's the sponsor money. Like, enjoy it. I'm like, I'm gonna put it all in red. I'm gonna go put it all in Husker red.
We got
Go
you a
and make
hotel.
sure.
What,
No,
what's
I'm
wrong?
kidding.
Why
I
are
know
you
Mike.
asleep
I
on
know
the
Mike
street?
in the YouTube chat who's been trying to get me to has been making some not gambling jokes, but is concerned about my quote unquote gambling.
He wants you
addiction.
to call 1-800-BETS off.
A little bit. I'm sure he is worried about that joke right there. But regardless of the fact, Bud and Canelo in Vegas will be incredible. I wonder if Bud ends up on this list a year from now after that Vegas fight.
Yeah.
I
Pay
wonder.
Bud.
I really wonder what the payout is because, Bud's a guy who is an incredible boxer, who's pound for pound the number one in the world. I mean, he proved it when he absolutely carved up Errol Spence. He's
It's a good way to put it.
He's been
Mhm.
doing it for a while now, been on the top of the game for a while, but that was his big fight. But man, this fight against Canelo, that's going to be they could market it as boxing's last super fight.
Damn, that's good. I like that.
They really could.
Yeah.
They really, if they wanted to claim this as boxing's last super fight, because you're kind of looking around at least, and I'm not going to act as I'm not a boxing expert.
Right. You're not
by-
Al Bernstein.
by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not acting as if I know the ins and outs of the games whatsoever. I'm a very casual fan. Casually, what is the other matchup that you're really clamoring for to see in boxing right now? And unfortunately, a lot of people could come up with a fight, and it more than likely will include Jake Paul.
I was going to say. I was going to say
and that's
that
exactly,
doesn't include.
and that's exactly the nucleus of what is wrong with boxing at this point. The fact that a guy who at best is a flat foot puncher who couldn't even get a 60-year-old Mike Tyson out of the ring.
Wow. It's come a long way from the days when I was rocking the wife beater and the pull-ups and dad sat me down in front of the TV for Hagler Hearns. And I was like,
Oh.
Is it all like this? Is it always like this? It's not. Gotti Ward was.
I
but-
was about to say that's one fight. I actually was alive for that fight. I was a whole month old when
Okay.
Gotti and Ward
I remember watching the first Gotti Ward fight.
fought in the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut on
Yeah.
May 18th,
A
2002.
Free
Never
fight.
forget that date, Peter. Never forget that date. May 18th, 2002. Gotti Ward. Surprisingly, John Rahm, number 10 on this list. He's making $105 million a year. $85 million because that's a live. That's a
Yeah, is it the
golfer.
live contract? Yeah.
So if you want to blame him for jumping ship from the PGA over to live, go ahead and look at Sportico.com. Who are the richest people in sports? John Rahm can tell you exactly why he did it. Dak Prescott, highest paid NFL player.
Oh.
$86 million in salary / winnings.
I like Dak, but they don't do him any favors.
Oh, that's comical. I'm sorry.
Cowboys
that
are
is-
comical.
That is comical. That is funny. $86 million for how many games did he play this year? 7?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You
know what?
Max Verstappen.
The Chiefs
comes
lost the
in at
Super
number
Bowl. I'm
18.
good. All's well.
You can't claim that as a win.
Oh, hell yes, I can.
No, you cannot.
Hell yes,
you
I
cannot
can.
claim another team's greatness and failure within the biggest game of the year
Really?
as
Because
a win for your team.
Oh, not my team. It was a win for me. I don't care about my team. I only care about myself. I was happy.
Absolutely.
It was
not.
like I took a blue pill from 5:30 to 9:30. I couldn't go outside.
You took a pill, all right. I don't know if it was the blue one though on that Sunday, but Max Verstappen $70 million. F1 Shohei Ohtani. Oh, this is comical. You ready
Shohei's
for this?
poor?
You ready for this one? Peter's gonna laugh his ass off here. Shohei Ohtani is number 21 on this ranking.
He
Okay?
was thinking you're
He's
going to
number
say
21.
Anthony Richardson.
He's the highest paid. He's the highest paid baseball player. Okay.
Yeah.
His salary / winnings is what? What would you guys say salary / winnings is?
Because he's got a good chunk of endorsements.
Yeah, he's on New Balance. They got
Yeah. So he's number 21 overall on the list. He's the
he's
number
number
one
21.
baseball player. What is his salary?
I'm gonna
Just
say-
guess a number.
101 million.
No.
I'm gonna say like half of that, like 50.
Okay. So his
$1.
salary is $2.5 million because
Damn.
he's got all that deferred
Yeah,
money
I'm just trying to count
at
him,
the
like,
back end of
okay.
it. Okay. His endorsements are $70 million.
Okay.
So this
He's
guy,
not
I mean,
poor.
the Dodgers did it. The Dodgers told him, look, you're going to take small amounts of money right now. And in this, I
We're
mean,
gonna give you pennies.
they Wolf of Wall Street at the MLB. They go, look, we're going to give you $2.5 million. And with our, and in this market and with our connections, you can make your salary up in endorsements. And then on the back half, when you're retired, that's when we'll pay you the money.
We're going to
That's-
pay you minimum wage, but
Yeah.
we're going to give you a series of bonuses. And
How
after
would-
the
how
bonuses,
funny
you're going
would
to be
that
up
be?
to your ass in money.
At the end of the Shohei contract, when he's done playing baseball, they sell the team. They make the new owner have to pay a Shohei Ohtani $70 million a year for him not to play baseball.
Bobby Bonilla Summer's like, hell yes. That's the
Bobby
way to
Bonilla
go.
Day. What a beautiful sport holiday.
You'll get to celebrate that with us here. That's a good day here.
Yannick Sinner, sport tennis. Oh, I forgot. Do you know what today is?
Friday.
It's Valentine's Day.
That's what they told me next door.
You think Sweet 98 is doing a whole 4-hour Valentine's Day special right now? Probably.
Oh, God, probably.
Took us.
J-
Hey, that's how you know where my love life is at. It took me an hour and 17 minutes to bring up that it was Valentine's Day.
Oh,
today.
And you know what?
today?
And you know what? Jimmy and I, Jimmy pointed out earlier the most important part of today, which is the
Uh-huh.
heart-shaped pizza.
The heart-shaped pizza. Hell yes.
The Valentina's heart-shaped pizza.
They
Oh,
have
yeah.
one too? I didn't.
Oh,
everybody has one. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's what every year.
We're
Okay.
gonna,
We got the
we're gonna have
Valentina's
to, we're gonna
heart-shaped
have to
pizza.
talk about that in Aramark and Valentino's Pizza because Mr. Matt McMaster over here is a little bit disappointed with
What
the news that I
happened?
found out. Well, we're gonna find out.
That's a tease because I did
We're
see
gonna
an
find
email.
out. Hey, we got a lot of things to talk about. We're gonna get a little football hour here, football 40 minutes here in a second, as we got some Huskers. Four
Look at
Huskers
that flag
are
blowing.
going. Look at that. Mount McMaster has never been more established and more proud. A mound of snow that used to be known as Mount Happer with a beautiful flag, an arts and crafts project. You know, I went to Home Depot and I stuck out like a sore thumb.
Why
I
go to
didn't-
Nepal to trek Everest when you
I-
can come
Right
to 50th
here.
and die?
It's safer.
and Trek Mount McMaster. I'm telling you something right now.
And Bishop interviewed you supposedly. That's what I
Okay,
heard.
so Bishop was commenting on a terrible park job.
He's
Like,
not
it was an
wrong, by
awful-
the way. I did see that.
It was an awful park job. And I see him and I'm sitting in my car and I see this like, you know, blue hat glisten through the parking lot. And I'm like, what the hell is that? What is going on there? Like, what is occurring? And it's John Bishop blabbering out the mouth with his phone out, talking about a car. And I'm like, oh. And so I took a video of him taking a video because I thought it was really funny. And I sent it to Odson. I don't know if Odson posted it or not, but it was just a funny coincidence. And then I see him start walking toward Mount McMaster, in which I thought he was going to go and destroy Mount McMaster. So he started walking over to Mount McMaster.
He's destroying
And
that
so
like
then-
a ref.
And so then I started walking over and I saw him going towards. So I started sprinting at him.
Oh,
But the problem is that, you know, Bishop doesn't know that you can't still have the Wi-Fi on your phone when you're outside of the building because it's a poor connection.
Yeah.
And so he forgot to disconnect his Wi-Fi from.
so it's all for naught.
So it wasn't recorded. It was
Oh.
just a moment between me and Bishop just thinking we were on the radio, but we weren't on the radio because no one could pick up the sound. Because
Who are
the
these two
connection-
yahoos standing in the
so
parking
poor.
lot debating?
And like you could kind of hear parts of our conversation come through, but at one point I told him, I will lay you out.
Whoa.
And that did not get caught on camera, unfortunately. But yeah, Rob
Right.
McMaster.
So last night I could have turned on the news and seen two homeless men. So we're seeing
No, I think-
arguing
I think it
at
was
50th and Dodge.
I think it was Josh or it was Connor. One of them said, Why is that high schooler trying to beat up that old man?
Email to staff. Hey, don't go outside.
Hey,
there's two
two.
people in the parking lot.
We were screaming at each other out there. But Mount McMaster standing strong. Nebraska basketball not standing so strong, but they will have an opportunity to bounce back on Sunday. At the same time, Creighton basketball will have an opportunity to get in first place in the Big East and really boost their resume for the NCAA tournament. And then Omaha has an opportunity tomorrow to climb back up once again the top of the Summit League when they take on the St. Thomas Tommies. Hey, Nebraska football, though, they got 4 players going to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and don't you fear, baseball is here. Nebraska, Creighton, and Omaha all kick off their season today. Stick with us here on 1620 The Zone. You're listening to Gary and Matt.
AEF Academy is one of the fastest growing youth basketball programs in the Omaha area. You want to get better on the floor, you want to get better off the floor, you want to have fun. AEF Academy is the place for you. Attitude, effort, focus. Those are 3 core values that are instilled in every athlete to become impact players both on and off the court and in their communities. AEF is hosting competitive teams, camps, and valuable instruction opportunities for players at all levels at their great facility. 3 hardwood courts, 99th Portal Road in Papillion. For more information, go to the website, aefacademy.com. And don't forget, coming up in just a little bit, spring and summer team tryouts, the fastest growing youth basketball program. You want to be a part of it right here. 2nd grade through 17 under boys and girls teams. The older teams are on the Recruit Look circuit. You can't miss it. They will make you better. AF runs a professionally structured evaluation process that provides objective insight for team placement while targeting specific individual player needs. You're going to get what you need: fun and excellent coaching, paid, trained, and dedicated to shaping the complete athlete. Check them out online at aefacademy.com.
Something happened yesterday in Nebraska football that I think on the surface level is something that maybe you're like, oh, cool. But I think it's like way more important than people realize, especially for this Nebraska football program. Yesterday, four Husker football players were invited to the NFL Combine. Those four being Ty Robinson, Thomas Fedoni, Tommy Hill, and Isaiah Nair.
Dude. Yeah.
So it is the first time since 2022 that four Huskers have been invited to the NFL Draft Combine. That was JoJo Doman. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. JoJo Doman. And then there was also Cam Jurgens, Taylor Britt, and Austin Allen.
Things have turned out well for a couple of them. Super Bowl champion Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, Cam Taylor Britt, who's on the absolute wrong team in the NFL, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he had a tougher year this year, but I mean, definitely still a guy that people herald as a pretty solid NFL cornerback who will be in the league for a long time. But currently, right now, Robinson is being mocked anywhere from rounds 5 to round 7. Isaiah Nair is being anywhere from round 7 to undrafted. He's going to need to have a pretty good combine. And then you got Tommy Hill, who entering the year, I think Tommy Hill was highly regarded as maybe a day 2 guy. He's, had a tough season this year, got injured, and then some, at the end of the year, just didn't really play his way. And so ends up kind of falling back in the draft right now. He's mocked anywhere from rounds 5 to round 7. It's not necessarily about, and I think some people might be like, really? Like, is it really that important that like 4 dudes
Yes.
who are all probably going to be picked in round or in day 3? Is it really that important that those guys are getting invited to the combine? And Thomas Fedoni right now, so I use this pro football NFL mock draft database. It's really sick. Have you heard of this, Peter? It's NFL mock draft database.
Yeah, this is his go-to.
I love it. So
one of my coworkers was telling me about it.
It just pulls all of the mock drafts that you could have from all of the different websites, and it just puts it into this one area, and it tells you
that's
who's getting drafted where. And so you can have a really good understanding of like where the ranges are for these guys. Thomas Fedoni, according to PFF, is the highest rated prospect out of that pool. He's 166th according to PFF. It's one of those things though where he's going to have to go through medicals. He's going to have to show that he can run at the combine. He's going to have to just show his athleticism overall. I do think that, when you have two ACL tears, and this isn't just a Thomas Fedoni thing, this is just every NFL prospect. I mean, we saw it. I mean, there was concerns with Jaden Daniels. There was concerns with Michael Penix.
But that's why Thomas is going now, because he's giving himself a chance.
Absolutely. So he will, I think, and like I've said this before, Thomas Fedoni is a really good college football tight end.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the yards after catch and fighting through contact and, the speed, just because of the injuries.
I still think in the right system, he's so damn good.
He can catch the ball, man.
Mm-hmm.
He can catch the ball, and he's a smart football player, and he knows what he's doing, and he's got the right mindset. Every time that Thomas Fedoni stepped up to the podium, I was always impressed with his attitude and his work ethic and what he wanted to accomplish. I mean, he's never made any bones about the fact that he wants to be the absolute best tight end he possibly can be. And being the absolute best tight end he can possibly be in his mind, and I think a lot of people's minds was being one of the best tight ends in the country. Unfortunately, he's had to battle through these injuries, but you cannot fault the fact that, hey,
he battled through
them, and he had a productive college career. Now, is his production a little bit marred by the fact that the expectations for him were so incredibly high that it was almost, unless he is a 2nd, 3rd, 4th round All-American type tight end, he wasn't going to live up to them, and those are crazy, crazy expectations. But he's still a guy, and he's, I love Evan Bland. He came on a couple of weeks ago. He kind of compared him to Marlon Lucky, in the early 2000s.
I like Marlon Lucky.
Marlon Lucky, produced at a pretty high. I mean, in his final year, he scored 7 touchdowns, and he was a little bit injured, but still had 600 yards rushing, and he had some definitely good seasons before that as well. It's like that's Marlon Lucky, like carried the ball, played good football for Nebraska, but he was at the time one of the highest rated recruits ever for Nebraska. And so the fact that he wasn't this world beater, All-American, insanity type dude.
But it could
Like-
also been a circumstance of the times. There was a lot of transition going on with Nebraska football. You can
Sure.
say the same thing about Thomas minus the injury. There's been a lot
Exactly.
going on in his tenure.
Exactly. And so,
He's just trying to survive and get through it.
you know, and it's one of those things where it's like the high, all this to say, Thomas Fidone is a good college football player. Did he have the career that you wanted, or you were hoping that he would
wanted.
have, or he wanted to have at Nebraska? No, I wouldn't say that.
But what if he has a great 10-year pro career? It's one of your own.
It's going to be tough, man,
You never know, though.
especially at that position.
You just see it this way. If he's had a lot of bad luck early, maybe a lot of good luck there. He's going to have a great, they're all going to have great combines, but I'm excited to see what they do. I don't know. I mean, that's the underwear Olympics, as Vers calls it. That's what I think of it now.
So, but I think this is so important for Nebraska because Matt Rule, since he's been here at UNL and has been the head coach of Nebraska football, has made it very clear that player development is his game and that he wants to be a program that is proven to produce NFL talent that's, you know, able to get you ready for the next level. That is rare and takes high school products and takes young transfer portal products, develops them into players and gets them to the next level. He wants to be known as that type of program. And it's some of that old school recruiting that still is valuable. I remember reading an article about the NIL and just the landscape of it and how people have been negotiating and who spent what. And, you know, there were anonymous NIL collectives from the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big 12. And they talked about who spent money the best, who was the smartest with their money. And the number one answer was Georgia, right? And basically what they were saying was Georgia and Kirby Smart were able to use what we now call, and I know this is going to be kind of crazy for you, old school recruiting tactics, right? Where he was talking about, hey,
Recruited their girlfriends?
well,
That's what Bear Bryant did.
that's good. That's a good one. But he says, hey, look, we're Georgia. Hey, we win. Hey, you want to win a national title?
We can't drive a car to save our lives, but we're Georgia.
Exactly. You want to go to the next level? Look at all these college football guys that we have that are now playing in the NFL. Go and look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Go and look at Jalen Carter. Go look at Jordan Davis. Go look at, go ahead and look at these guys and
How many
see
times
what
do you hear
we've done.
Georgia said
And-
when they introduce these players?
Exactly. And so it's just like Nebraska wants to be able to do that. Nebraska wants to be able to say to these high school recruits and to these transfer portal recruits, hey, look at the products we put in the NFL. Look at the guys that got drafted. Look at these dudes who weren't that highly touted. Isaiah Nair played at Wyoming, and then he went to Texas and couldn't get on the field, and then he came to Nebraska. And you know what? We were able to get him drafted. Now he's playing in the NFL, right? When we got Thomas Fidone, he hadn't played. I mean, it was 2 years of injuries, of not playing well.
We worked with them and look at them now.
And look at him now.
Making a living playing ball.
Right? They want to be able to put their stamp on Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker, and Nash got snubbed from the combine, which was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he
Hard to
had an
believe.
incredible East-West Bowl. Regardless of that, they want to be able to say, hey, when we got to Nebraska, and this is true, Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker were starters, but they were not sniffing the NFL draft. And they made vast improvements in their junior year, their first year here when we came in. And they came back to us and played more football for Nebraska because they knew that if they were going to get drafted higher in the draft, it was more advantageous for them to continue to play Nebraska football.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to this program. It is important to the vision. It is important to the message that Matt Rule is sending to people that Nebraska football gets guys drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that you got 4 dudes on a 7-6 football team that are going to go to the combine, it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you're hoping for them, for their individual futures, for Robinson, for Fidone, for Hill, for
Hell, even as a fan, you want to puff your chest out a little.
Exactly.
Like, hey, all right. Yeah.
you know, and I think those,
GBR.
like Hutmaker and Robinson are definitely 2 dudes that regardless of where they go, you're going to have Nebraska football fans rooting for their success because of just straight up how just passionate they were. They were Huskers. Robinson and Hutmaker, and not to take away, same thing with Fidone, you know, Hill and Nair. I mean, all 4, 5 of those guys are Huskers, but I think that Hutmaker and Robinson definitely embodied what people would say is being a Nebraska.
Something.
It meant wearing the
Like, it
N
meant everything.
It meant everything to them. So on the
No matter
surface
what they
level,
do at the next level, they wore the N, and it's some of the best years of their life.
on the surface, and that's a great way of putting it. And I think on the surface level, it's like, oh, they got 4 guys in the underwear level. right? But when you really
It's better
dig
than
in deeper-
none.
well,
It's a start.
it's what Matt Rule has been preaching, that it's about winning football games, and it's about paying off the investments that not only the athletic department has put into the team, but the fans have put into the team. But what it's also about is getting guys ready for the next level and doing what's absolute best for them and their futures, and developing not only football players, but young men into grown men. And part of that is getting guys drafted and making right on your promise, right? When you have a coach come up to you and say, hey, I want you to come to this program. I want you to be my wide receiver. I want you to be my quarterback. I want you to be my D lineman, because you know what we're going to do with you? We're going to get you to the NFL. And when you come through on that promise, that's a big deal. And people speak very highly of that. And not only is it good for you, but it's good for the program. And so these 4 guys now, in terms of where they'll get drafted, they're all 4 going to need really good combines. I think that Robinson, and we're going to talk to Chad Forbes of Draft Bites here at 8:40 about that, and about where, we'll get some general draft talk in there, but then we're also going to do a lot about the Huskers and what each of these guys individually are going to need to do in order to get drafted and put themselves in the best position when they do get to the NFL. But I think for Robinson, it's very advantageous for him. He's got the tape. When you open up the tape, Ty Robinson's best moments pop. I mean, it is electric. It stands out to you the way that he is able to play in that 3 technique and go ahead and just move some of these defensive linemen. He's one of those guys where he's massive and he's big and he's super strong, but he's got really quick speed off the ball.
And we saw what a great front 4 could do in the Super Bowl on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah.
A great front 4 allows everybody else to do other things rather than have to commit a lot to the rush. So, I mean, these are guys that can help in the right situation.
And I do think it's a little bit tough for Ty, just because this is a really loaded, and we'll talk about it with Chad, but this is a really loaded line draft, not only just on the offensive line, but more so on the defensive line. You got a lot of really good college defensive linemen who are going to go in day 1, day 2, day 3, like consistently in the top rounds of this draft. You're going to see a lot of D linemen fly off the board. And so I think in a weaker D line draft, Ty definitely would have been a little bit higher than that 5 to 7 range that he's in. But it's hard to, when you turn on the tape, it's hard to deny the power in which Ty Robinson plays with. And it's hard to deny the fact that his production in the Big Ten is similar or reflects production in the Big Ten that can translate into the next level. And so having a good combine, running a good 40, showing that speed, I think that's going to be a massive, massive thing for Ty come combine time. For Fedoni, I think that Thomas Fedoni's production, he played as if he should be in the NFL. It's just really going to come down to his meetings, his medical, his physical, how is he able to run? And then I think when you look at Nair and Tommy Hill, I mean, I think Tommy's, once again, combine's important, running's important, showing the speed's important, having the meetings will be important. I mean, these are 4 dudes who are kind of teetering on the day 3 to undrafted line. And it's going to be a massive opportunity for them, and a massive, I mean, look, Matt Rule he's not a Mississippi State Bulldog fan, and he's not going to be ringing cowbells during the NFL draft.
That would be weird.
But he's going to be jumping up and down, hoping that, man, if they could get all 4 of these guys drafted, and Matt Rule can go at a podium and he can go into the living rooms of recruits and say, hey, I got 4 dudes drafted this year.
You want to be like him one day?
Exactly. That would be massive, massive for the program.
Come here. We're going to do our best to get you there. So, yeah, to have all of them succeed, that's part of building a program. When you start to see that, you say only 4. I say that's 4 more than they've had. That's 4 more than they had last year. Next year, can you make it more?
Well,
and then eventually your quarterback, you're going to want him to.
And when you start developing draft picks, what do you start developing? You start developing dudes. And when you start developing dudes, who do you start recruiting?
There's that D word.
You start recruiting dudes. You start recruiting dudes. You start developing dudes. What do you start to do, Peter?
Win.
You start to win football games.
Big games.
There's
The
a different way of D&D.
This is a
development of
snowball effect that, man, if they can get the ball rolling in this NFL draft combine, and they can get the ball rolling in this facility and in that athletic department, could be good for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're going to take a break here. We'll have Tim Kruger coming up at the 8 o'clock hour, Bracketology. Then at 8:40, we'll have Chad Forbes, and then the always great Matt Versal will be on at 9:20. Don't go anywhere. You listen to Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone.
This basketball season, when your favorite stars score buckets, we're alley-ooping you an opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog. Okay, to play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower. What other stats? Points, assists, rebounds, more. They got all your favorite leagues, teams, stars to choose from. You can create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports and other levels of basketball. You can do NBA, you can do college. It's all right there for you. This weekend on Underdog, I'm going to go back and start diving in on some college basketball because there are lots of games and I need to make lots of money. Remember, I work in radio. It helps. Thank goodness for this. Download the Underdog app and sign up now using promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on all the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 19 plus. Yeah, 19, not 18. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Do you know what's good for sports?
Winning.
Well, that's good for teams. I'm speaking in generalities. What's good for sports?
Parody.
Parody is a good one. Jimmy, what's good for sports?
Parody is good. People want to believe that they can win.
This sounds like a Jeopardy question. Stars.
What is parody?
What is parody? Stars. Stars is good for sports. The best thing that could possibly happen in women's basketball happened last night when number 6 USC took down number 1 UCLA. And not only did they take down number 1 UCLA, they killed, well, they didn't kill them, but they won by double digits. And on top of that, on top of just beating your rival by 11, who had been undefeated up to that point, by the way, Juju Watkins, who already is a star, established herself as more of a star for women's basketball when she dropped 38 points in the team's victory, I think, along with 11 rebounds. Let me tell you something right now. Like, NCAA tournament, the men's NCAA tournament, always going to be exciting, but like that win yesterday turned a lot of people's heads. UCLA looked like an absolute wagon in women's basketball. USC, who also has a really, really good team, went in and they beat them, and Juju looked incredible doing it. The type of performance.
And for those that don't realize this, she is, I mean, she's already here, but the next big star. Now, maybe it gets forgotten about because of where she plays to an extent, whereas Caitlin played in Iowa. Paige plays out on the East Coast, but those that have had a chance to see her, I mean, this is, if you haven't, you'll hear a lot more when the tournament comes because they will be a team to be heard from because of that.
I do think Caitlin Clark had the advantage of playing in Central Time, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that was a thing. And I think Juju being all the way on the West Coast definitely slightly takes away from the audience that she gets and the amount of people who are willing to stay up in order to watch her play.
She gets the last laugh, though, because, you know, when in the tournament, when that last game ends, you still have a couple hours.
Yeah.
Which you'll find out when we send you to Vegas.
Exactly. And so them winning yesterday was absolutely massive for women's basketball. It's the type of win that makes you want to watch Juju Watkins even more than you already did. And I think that there were probably some people who may have not known who Juju Watkins was yesterday. And let me tell you something right now, that should be a small conglomerate of people who should not know who Juju Watkins is because she is an absolute baller to the highest variety. But that's the type of win, turns heads, type of performance that creates more stars, types of performance that when she plays in the NCAA tournament, you're going to want to tune on and watch. Another big win yesterday in women's basketball was for Nebraska women's basketball.
Well, they put an ass whipping on Maryland.
Not only, 91-71 is the score. Nebraska women's basketball was fluttering, to say the least. They had lost 4 of their last 5 games.
This was an upset on the road.
On the road.
They were
major
down double
upset.
figures early.
Alexis Markowski, 20 points, 11 rebounds. Britt Prince had 13, 6 of 10 from the field. All 5 starters, including Anna Rimdahl, who came off the bench, had double-digit points. Type of victory. Did you guys see the video on the Twitter on the afterward?
I did not.
Amy Williams walks into the locker room.
Shout out
giving
Amy.
her like the rookie home run silent treatment.
I did not see
Like they weren't doing anything.
She's ready to celebrate.
I think she knew it before because then they all bursted out into excitement.
I saw some, and this is always going to happen when there's a string of losses. I saw some people that were saying maybe it was time to move on from Amy Williams. No. That
Relax.
what she has done consistently at that program, and honest to God, I can't remember the last season where they got through the year without losing a player.
Every year they have lots of injuries.
That's a great point.
Finds a way to.
And this year specifically, they have lost 2 players, one of which was probably going to lead the team in points for the season, and Natalie Potts, who they lost pretty early on. No, Amy Williams is a fantastic coach.
She is a fantastic coach.
She's one of those that I'd say if they ever moved on from her, she'd be unemployed for about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
if she wants to be.
Absolutely.
They what? Call her. But call her.
Still on the train here with the Dallas Mavericks. Officially, Daniel Gafford out for 6 weeks.
How will they recover?
Tough for the Mavericks.
Not fun times in Dallas.
Not
All right, Peter, you hate to see it. Oh, man. Poor Mavericks.
Another development that just actually kind of happened just recently. Notre Dame is finalizing a deal to hire Detroit Lions Director of Scouting Advancement Mike Martin as the school's new general manager, per source. Notre Dame is going to join UNC, USC, and Stanford as teams that have official general managers.
This is the new normal.
Managing football rosters.
It's going to take a while for me to get used to that.
But I think they're great moves in general because you need another guy in that role to help.
I made some pretty bold claims on this show
since you've been here, yes,
in my very short time. Some have been right, some have been wrong. One of my bolder claims was that you're going to see more and more NFL coaches, more and more NFL people hop into college football. It took a little bit for that to happen, and it is a slow burn, but we are getting to the point where college football is becoming NFL light. Another one of those that we haven't even talked about on the show is Matt Patricia, very weirdly and randomly.
He and his pencil going to Columbus.
Going to Ohio State to join the Buckeyes to be the new defensive coordinator. Very random out of nowhere. It's interesting, though.
Dueling beards.
So Ryan Day, over the last year, has made 3 hires. Okay? All 3 of those hires have been of former NFL coaches. He hired Bill O'Brien, who was head coach in the NFL.
Good hire.
Who then, a month later, got hired by Boston College to be their head coach. So he never really coached for Ohio State, but he was hired by Ryan Day. He was officially going to be the OC of Ohio State. Then, in pivoting toward that, he goes to Chip Kelly, a former NFL head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, who then was the OC when they won the national championship game. And after one of the worst play calling performances I've ever seen against Michigan, put on an absolute clinic in the college football playoff when he just started saying, all right, out route to Jeremiah Smith, flag route to Jeremiah Smith, post route to Jeremiah Smith,
we got you these dudes.
I think we'll throw it to Jeremiah Smith.
I think I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Jeremiah Smith, is what Chip Kelly said over and over again.
Find different ways
to
the
delight of the Ohio State fandom. And then now Ryan Day, once again, goes ahead, has a coaching hire to make. Who does he hire? A former NFL head coach in Matt Patricia, who, not a good former NFL head coach, a quite bad former NFL head coach, but still, despite the fact, brings in more NFL flavor to his program. And I think it's just, and now, am I saying that currently you're going to see all these NFL guys like Bill Belichick jump the ship and try and manage college football? No.
But it's an intriguing option now.
But it's becoming, you're getting to the point where there's always been, well, it's so much different. Coaching the college game is so much different than coaching the NFL game. And this is why you see some stark contrast between who the best college coaches are and who the best pro coaches are. Now that this NIL era is developing more and more, and we're getting to these, we have a salary cap, basically, with rev share. We are having football teams or athletic departments who are hiring football general managers. We are having coaches who have to now negotiate contracts with players. We are getting closer and closer to this NFL-like model. And as this,
so I told Gary his thing about trades, that'll happen one day. Because what if everything that has happened the past several years, this is where you're going to draw the line? This is too much? No, it's the Pandora's out of the box.
I think
whatever they want to happen will happen. That's what they want. That's what they'll get.
We cannot have this conversation now because I don't think there's enough information and it's way too much speculation of it. But we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation at some point in the next 5 to 10 years of do the colleges still need to be aligned with what's going on? Yeah. Does school still need to be a part of this? Are there even universities anymore attached to what's happening? Seriously, we're not ready. True. We're not ready to have that convo. There's not enough litigation, information. Things have to get settled. We're not there yet. But in the next 5 to 10 years, we could get to that uncomfortable convo. And it would be really, really weird. And I think everybody would hate it. But we're heading down a path where, frankly, no one knows where we're going. This college football is not the yellow brick road. It's honestly more like a forbidden forest. And we all are figuring out this journey together. And we'll figure out the journey of the NCAA tournament and college basketball together in the next hour when we bring on Tim Kruger here in a couple of minutes. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. I love that. That was such a great play on words for me. starting next Monday, or actually this Sunday, we will be just 4 weeks away from Selection Sunday.
That's less than a month.
As they say in Pinnacle Bank Arena, can you feel it? And we are
Just
bringing
like that.
in our bracketologist from Bracketville, Mr. Tim Kruger. Tim, how are you doing, my man?
Hey, good. How are you guys doing?
Been doing great. You guys on Bracketville have been producing some great content recently. Go and check it out if you haven't already. It's been absolutely awesome. Yesterday was a big day for you and your crew. You had your top 16 from your banner brackets mock selection last night. Let's break it down, my man. What do you have? Who are your 16? And let's just kind of go through this list. I mean, some really good teams you have in here.
Well, the ones went Auburn in order, went Auburn, Alabama, Duke, Florida. And then the twos went in order, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Houston, and Purdue.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a little surprised. I
Yeah.
personally have Purdue ahead of Houston.
Okay.
And that's the way my bracket just came out now a few minutes ago, but that's the way I have it. 3 seeds, Iowa State clearly the lead there, and then Kentucky, Kansas, Texas Tech.
I'm looking at this South bracket, Tim, and this would be an absolute burner of a 1, 2, 3, 4. Auburn, Houston, Kentucky, and Wisconsin. I mean, Auburn's got to be the favorite to come out of that one. But of that group of Houston, Kentucky, Wisconsin, who do you think you like the most to maybe upset what will be the number 1 overall seed more than likely in the NCAA tournament?
Well, it doesn't look like anybody's going to upset them. I guess they got beat the other day, but
Yeah.
They're really playing high level. Probably Houston, just because of their defense.
Could Kentucky pose a problem to them being a same conference team, and sometimes that familiarity can help?
Yeah, possibly. Kentucky has a tremendous amount of top-notch wins. I mean,
Yeah.
It's really impressive. Their metrics aren't great. I mean, they're down in the low teens to high 20s. But they beat the number 2, the number 4 team twice, and the number 5 team so far this year. And then they've also beat A&M. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Mississippi State. Louisville. So they've had an impressive record. They're number 2 strength of schedule overall, which obviously that bears that out. So they've just been, in my mind, they're not the greatest defensive team in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They give 98 to Ole Miss, 102 to Alabama, 85 to Ohio State, so 82 to Georgia, 89 to Arkansas. So that may, that's something that may come back to haunt them a little bit.
Pretty good slate of college basketball games this weekend. No top 25 matchups tonight, but tomorrow you're going to have a slew of them. I'll give you some matchups here, and I know we're getting to the point where these matchups may be moving the bar a little bit less and less as we're stacking more games together and resumes are being built higher. But out of these matchups that I'm going to give to you right here, who do you think might move the needle the most in terms of improving the resume in the NCAA tournament? I'll give you the games. Wisconsin versus Purdue, Houston versus Arizona, Auburn versus Alabama, or Mississippi State versus Ole Miss.
Well, I mean, if I want to watch a game, it'd be Auburn.
Oh, absolutely. But a win in one of those games for what team do you think could move the needle the most?
I don't know that they would flip-flop spots, Auburn and Alabama. So even with an Auburn loss. So
sure.
I'm sorry, give me those again. You got Mississippi State,
Houston, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Purdue.
Very under the radar game.
Yes.
Ole Miss, in my bracket, and then last night in our mock selection, just barely missed. We had a lot of support for them to take over for Marquette, who was one of our last teams in. And, if you look at their resume, they've got a pretty strong resume. So I think it would just keep building their resume. Mississippi State's been slipping a little bit lately, so they could really use a win against their cross-state rivals. Purdue just needs to kind of right the ship. It was a tough loss the other night in a 2-point game. That's why I didn't really ding them for that. I mean, that's a 2-point game against Michigan, who ended up being a 3 seed here. So, it's not that bad, but and I guess last night we had a lot of discussion on Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And if you look at the top of their resume, they don't have much there. So I guess a win against Purdue would give them something they badly need. So that might be the one.
Okay.
Who did you say Arizona's playing?
Houston.
Houston, Arizona.
Oh, yeah. Was that at Arizona?
Yeah,
That's
it's at
in Tucson.
Arizona, yeah.
Okay. Well, they never lose there.
Yeah.
So that would just that one probably would have the greatest impact because Houston's clinging kind of to that 2 spot. And Arizona, our initial bout last night, we had Arizona at the 3, and then we scrubbed it and we moved to a 4.
Okay.
And just because they just don't quite have enough, Houston would push them over the threshold, I think, and they'd be a solid 3.
It's a great call on Wisconsin, by the way, having, they have, don't get me wrong, really solid wins throughout the entire resume. But other than that Arizona win in November, they really don't have that top of the line, benchmark in conference victory yet. And so if they were to go to Mackey Arena and defeat Purdue, I mean, that would be a massive, massive win. Talking about a massive game, let's move to the Creighton Blue Jays. Everyone kind of marked this stretch that they're going on as the most important of the season. You play Marquette, then UConn, then you go on the road to play St. John's. Picked up a big win against Marquette. Tough loss. It took a Liam McNeely signature game at home for UConn to pull that one out, and then now they're on the road. What would a win at St. John's do for Creighton, not only in terms of just currently just them winning, but then also the outlook on the rest of their season? What could that do for them in terms of moving up these brackets in the NCAA tournament?
Well, Creighton would have the path to the Big East title.
Yes.
Because you look at they played all the big bombers early.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Georgetown, Butler, DePaul at home, at Seton Hall, the worst team in the league, and then a tough road game at Xavier. But that's it.
Yeah.
So if they get this one, they would then pull into a tie with St. John's, but they would have tiebreakers over all of the top 3 teams at that point.
Could you see them moving up to 6 or 5 then? In the end?
Yeah.
That happens?
I think a win over St. John's would get them to a 6. And then, an accumulation of wins, and depends on what other people do around them, would maybe push them to a 5. I don't know at this point if they can get all the way to 4. But, we don't know. I hate to say this because the committee never values conference tournaments that heavily, but if it made a deep run in the conference tournament, maybe. But I would think, if they won the regular season title, then won the postseason, that usually sets a trigger with the committee. But I don't, that's a long ways away and a lot of basketball between there and now. And I know the Jays got their hands full Sunday against St. John's.
No, absolutely. So if you had to lock in a team in the Big East to be the number 1 seed, would you take Marquette over the field at this point? Or St. John, or is it Marquette
seed in the Big East
the
tournament?
top? Yeah, who would be the top seed? Who do you think at the end of this could be the top seed in the Big East in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, be the number 1 seed. I mean, unless something disastrous happens. St. John's wins; they have a 2-game lead over everyone, so they'll be the number 1
Well, no,
seed.
I mean in the NCAA tournament, their top seed in the NCAA tournament. Like, would you say?
I gotcha.
Yeah. Who do you think of the Big East will be the top seed in the big tournament?
Well, it would depend on St. John. If St. John's can beat Marquette the second time, they would leapfrog by them, and they probably, even though I have Marquette a 4 seed right now, St. John's a 5. If St. John's takes care of business Sunday and then maybe beats Marquette, I think they would easily move into the 3-4 line.
Wow.
And they would be the best Big East seed. Marquette certainly would have that opportunity with victories over UConn and St. John's.
So we'll go from Omaha to Lincoln then after, yesterday was a tough loss to Maryland for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And it was just, we kind of talked about it earlier on the show, Tim, just kind of a nightmare injury that they had with Berke Buchtengel not being able to go, and just a terrible matchup for the team, playing against Dairy Queen and Maryland, who playing some of the best basketball in the Big Ten right now. What did yesterday's loss do to the Huskers in terms of the NCAA tournament? And they still have some quad one opportunities, but what do you think at this point after that loss, their ceiling in terms of seeding could be?
Probably an 8-9. It just depends on that area where they're sitting now is so muddled.
Yeah.
That if they could string some wins together, they could move out of that group. They've kind of righted themselves to, get a couple game cushion over that bottom of the league, so they're not going to have to worry about not making the tournament. Yeah, I mean they've got 2 very winnable goals. 3 of the next 4 actually are very, very winnable.
Yes.
So
yeah.
They just can't stub their toe. If they run into problems with Northwestern and Penn State, both on the road, then
That'll be tough.
all bets are off because then they
Yeah.
have Michigan coming up next.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then you would have to hope, you beat Minnesota, you beat Iowa, probably beat Ohio State because they're a team that's right around with Nebraska in that 9-10 area.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be what they'd have to do. I don't think they have to absolutely win both these, but they certainly need to split here. They need to beat Minnesota, and then if they split, they need to probably beat Minnesota, Ohio State, Iowa to feel super safe.
Okay.
I think there's a chance they could still get in losing these 2. I mean, if you upset Michigan, that's another huge one.
Sure.
But losing these 2, and then you would pretty much have to run Minnesota, Ohio State, and Iowa and get something in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, the Big 12, Iowa State and Kansas both, you got them as 3 seeds. Iowa State's had a lot of injuries, but they're starting to sort of find their footing back. And then Kansas has just been so Jekyll and Hyde that you could see them falling down even further if things could continue the way they've been, but you could also see them going back up. The same with the Cyclones if they get healthy.
Yeah, I still think Iowa's going to be right there with Houston when it's all said and done. I think they're going to be right there. And Kansas seems to be playing better than they have in the past, month. So I wouldn't count the Jayhawks out either and Bill Self. So, yeah, the only thing is it's just, it's so deep. You have Arizona. You've got BYU now trying to get a berth. You've got, Arizona State shows that they're very capable, especially you play them down there, even on the road. I don't know if you guys saw that other incredible Texas Tech Arizona State game the other night. Was probably the best game of the year. Double overtime, just crazy stuff in that game.
Yeah.
They've shown they're capable if they can, put it together. So they're a dangerous upset team. So, and then now Kansas State coming out of nowhere. So there's just so, it's every night. It's almost like the SEC where every night there's a huge matchup. And you still have teams like Central Florida and Cincinnati who, are not tournament teams right now, but they're not bad basketball teams. So, yeah, you can't take a night off in the Big 12 or you're going to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it probably goes Houston, Iowa State. Then Arizona and Kansas are kind of battling for that next spot.
So we're looking at your 1 seeds here. You have Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and Duke. Is there any chance, Tim, you think we could maybe get, if Duke slips up, 4 SEC number 1 overall seeds? Is that crazy to ask?
It's very possible.
That is insane.
Very possible. Yeah. Now, normally, before these conferences exploded in size, that would be a huge problem for the committee because then they would have to make sure that no SEC team landed on 8 or 9.
Sure.
But because now a lot of these games, they only play each other once, that's totally acceptable to play in the second round.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very possible. There's not a wide margin between Tennessee and Duke. Not at all. It's very, very, very close. And Duke gets hurt because they just really don't have a way to get a lot of quality wins.
No. And the ACC has been down this year.
Tennessee's playing a quality team every night. Now, on the flip side of that means that you could lose every inning too. So.
Sure. So is there a possibility? I mean, if I told you that 5 years ago, that, hey, there's a real possibility that one conference is going to have 4 number 1 seeds, what would you have said?
I would have said no way, but if you'd have told me that the conferences are expanding like they are, then I could have said, yeah. Now, I wouldn't have thought it would be the SEC.
Who would you have thought it been?
I would have thought it would probably be either the Big 10 or more likely the Big 12. If you just look this year, if you take Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, and Arizona,
Yeah.
they're all in the top 3 line. So, there's some upsets in there. Kansas doesn't have a few upsets. Iowa State doesn't have an upset. Houston maybe plays a little tougher non-conference schedule. A lot of factors like that. I could see, the Big 12 doing it. But, frankly, this year it's kind of strange because a lot of conferences, you look at the Big East. Usually, we were talking about this the other day. It's kind of interesting that usually, you say, oh, well, gosh, if we lose Sunday, Creighton lose Sunday, they can't win, their chance of winning the title. But then there was always like, well, we want to be the 2 seed or the 3 seed.
Sure.
Because we want to avoid somebody at the top like it's been UConn lately, right?
Yeah.
This year, all 4 are pretty even.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter if you finish 1 through 4. I would think you would want to avoid it being in this, like if you're a 4 and St. John's is a 1, and then you could have to play in Madison Square Garden against St. John's and then UConn. And
that sounds like fun.
I mean, St. John's isn't bad, but UConn, that arena is 70-80% UConn fans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a home game for them. So that's where you'd want to avoid it. If you could maybe get Marquette the first game, although, I think, man, if you catch them on the right night, you're going to have problems too. So it'll be a really, really fun tournament.
Talking with our resident bracketologist, Tim Kruger. And Tim, everything that you're saying sure seems to point to me that this is going to be a very wide open tournament. So a lot of brackets could be busted right away.
Yeah, we haven't even talked the teams like Drake.
Yeah.
UC Irvine had a buzzer beater last night to win, and they're not even leading their conference right now because UC San Diego's leading a very, very good team. McNeese State, I just call them McNeese State. They're just McNeese now. McNeese is a very good team as well. And, a team, former Creighton J and former Creighton assistant Al Huss High Point team is now back on top in the conference. And if they can win their conference tournament, they'd be a dangerous team in like a 13 line playing a 4 seed. So there's a lot of really good teams when you go down into the, 12, 13, even some of the 14 ranges. So yeah, I could see, especially, I don't know about the top because there's kind of a gap once you get Tennessee, and then there's a gap.
Yeah.
And then you go to Purdue, A&M, Houston, Iowa State. Then there's another, maybe Kentucky in that group. And then there's another gap, a bigger gap with Kansas, Arizona, and everything. And then I think there's a Texas Tech. And then there's another huge gap where now you get the rest of the 4s, the 5s, the 6s all bunched together, even some 7s in there. So yeah, you could see some upsets, no doubt in that 4-13 and maybe a 3-14.
Tim, before we let you go here, if I were to give you the option, you can have and this is to win it all, win the national championship. I'm giving you the option. You take the SEC or you take the field. Who would you take?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would probably take the field.
Oh, that wasn't confident, Tim. That's not a confident answer.
The thing that's sticking out to me is Duke.
Yeah.
Okay. Duke and then maybe Houston.
Okay.
If you could throw those 2 out, then I would definitely take the SEC. But they're 2 teams, and I wouldn't rule out, the way Michigan's playing,
Yeah.
They've got everything. They've got guards. They've got a really good big. So they've got the recipe to go deep. But yeah, it is tough. It's tough. It would, I still think when it's all said and done, I think Alabama's going to be there. I mean, They probably, in person, they're probably the best team I've seen play.
Okay.
Now, one of the nights I saw them play, Oregon beat them, and at that time, Oregon was an absolute juggernaut. And I thought, oh my God, Dana's got his best team ever, and now they're an 8-9 seed. So stuff happens, but yeah, I think it's going to be tough to beat Alabama when it comes down, because Oates is a great coach.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tim, our resident bracketologist. Appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you next week. All right.
All right, man.
All right. Talk to you soon. Always love having Tim come on. True pros pro, knows what he's talking about. Things are shaking or jiving.
Last year,
we got through a lot there. And I mean, the fact that it took him that long to decide whether or not he would take literally the entire field or the SEC, it just goes to show how powerful that conference is right now. If we get 4 1 seeds all from the same conference.
I thought it was football.
But did you hear the SEC is 500?
Oh yeah, Carl.
This is
Ravish.
what I've been told.
I'm sorry to beat that.
By the way,
because
he goes.
Carl owned up to it.
Yeah, he was a big boy.
I don't know. He had to send out 2 tweets. His first tweet was like, and
I only saw one tweet. What was the other tweet?
He was like, oh, tongue in cheek. And I'm like, there was nothing tongue in cheek about that. Like you would read, like he sounded like regular old Carl Ravish. I mean, I don't know what was worse. Thinking that the Oral Roberts homer was a walk-off, or saying that the SEC is 82 and 82 in the conference. That's he's had some blunders, but he's a hell of a broadcaster. I like him. I've met him before. Very nice guy. Alrighty. Well, we're moving all over the place, man.
This is how it usually goes.
We went from basketball, then we went to football, then we went back to basketball. Now we're going to baseball. Then we're going to go back to football. I mean, we're going to be everywhere, all over the map. Don't go anywhere. Gary and Matt, 1620 The Zone.
Yes, do. And join the VIP club. Sign up for 1620 the email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on the zone, including sports news, contests, promotions, more. The renaming of mountains of snow outside. Anything that you want to know. Sign up at 1620thezone.com. And while you're there, don't miss your chance to win $5,000 damn dollars. Whether you get your number 2 together giveaway. Register online for a chance to win at the same place that I just told you to do the other thing. 1620thezone.com. I want a burger now.
Oh, don't say that.
Friday
I've been
bag,
eating too many burgers recently.
Friday bag.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good burgers.
Shout out burgers. And fries. Peter
Shout out
Man loves
burgers.
fries.
I do. Maybe too much.
You're young.
Um,
Enjoy it now.
I was off fries for about a year and a half. I just did not eat them. I was just like, not good for the macros, not good for the calories. But I've
People
lost
give up heroin for a year. He gave up fries.
I lost enough weight to the point where like, okay, I can have a fry. You know, like I can have a fry, and then it turns into 2 and turns into 3. What are the best fries, Peter, man? What are your favorite fries?
I want to hear this.
I have
You have top 5
I do
list.
frequently change this list because
Do you have an actual top 5 list of fries?
I think comfortably in the top 5. Like these will never leave the top 5. Broncos has phenomenal fries. Runza, I love the crinkle cut.
Yeah.
And then this might be one of my more hot takes because these are very hit and miss with people. The shoestring fries at Freddy's.
Okay.
I really like those.
What are you, an old man? What are you?
Because a
What are
lot
you,
of people don't
75
like.
years
A lot of
old?
people don't like.
You
the
like shoestring
They don't- A lot of
fries?
people don't like
Are
the
you kidding me?
shoestring.
Did you like the
The
shoestring
seasoning
chips?
is good.
Do you guys
The
ever
seasoning
have?
is good.
Dude, you know the shoestring Lay's potato chips? Do you remember those?
Before that, they used to have this jar of things, and when my cousin was a baby, she would eat them on account of not having teeth.
Shoestring Lay's potato chips. You ever have them?
I don't know
Okay,
if I
they're
have.
like Freddy's shoestring fries. They're just not as hot and they're more salty. The only person I ever knew to eat them was my grandfather, who at the time was 78 years old. The only people who I've ever seen eat shoestring anything and truthfully enjoy it are like people who deserve to be in retirement homes. Okay, no knock.
Old people fries.
No, they're
Shout out
old
old
people
people.
fries. Okay, so you're an old man. What's your 4th favorite fry?
Wait,
That
I
is
thought you
crazy.
were too.
Not with shoestring fries.
I was like, you got
Shoestring
3
fries, you
curmudgeons
barely
in
can
here.
bite in them. You got to get shoestring fries like hot out the fryer. Like they have to burn your mouth in
And
order for them to be worth
That
it.
is true. And I will say the one complaint I have about them is it's impossible to eat them without looking like a total slob.
Because you have to,
because
you're
you have to
dipping
eat
them
You
in
got
the
to eat
fry sauce.
87 of them all at
Yeah,
once.
you got to eat a lot of them at once, and there's not a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And good luck. Good luck, by the way. Like you have to eat those. You have to scarf them down in 2 minutes because if they get cold for a second, they get bendy and chewy and
It's
shoestring
That's fair.
fries. We've lost a lot of credibility.
They taste delicious though, but I've always said you need them. You want thicker fries.
Oh, have you been to Freddy? Dan says, have you gone to Freddy's? Those fries are a tier. I thought you said a top tier. They are a tier. Have you been to Freddy's?
That's
what
that's
you're
shoestring.
talking about,
That's
yeah.
the ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's what
those are
Dan
Freddy's,
said.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
Dan.
Shout
Even
out Freddy's.
Dan's a curmudgeon too.
yeah, because I love Freddy's.
Dan's
I
also-
love the steak burger
Dan-
and the shoestring.
Dan's a
fries.
curmudgeon old man who wears terrible sweaters.
terribly beautiful.
No, terrible sweaters. And I even
Oh.
and for those who say that to Dan's face, I have said that to Dan's face. Okay, they're terrible
Oh.
sweaters.
Careful, Dan will come in here. I always invite him to come in here.
That'd be
Before he was corporate Dan, he was
were,
one of us.
We were having a great segment yesterday, and then Chris Prudon came in and just gave us, just blessed us. I'm not complaining though.
I was
He
going to say, I
blessed
enjoyed
us.
his visit.
Love Chris.
Blessed us with Super Bowl 59 apparel and a great breakdown too of the halftime show. On air fight right now, Dan. Let's throw, man. Let's throw,
Oh,
Dan.
no.
Let's
Get
go.
down.
Hey, he wants content, Dan. So I guess that's
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if Nick Grimm wants content, I can sell a GoPro. I will let GoPro sponsor
to
me. And I'll
Matt's
strap
credit.
that
He's
thing on,
willing to do
and
it.
I will go live on Twitter for 24 hours. You just get to see Matt McMaster and how he works. Mount McMaster standing beautifully strong over there. Look at that right now.
It's nice.
It's
just don't stay
beautiful.
there.
What is
You
after
come get your
Freddy's?
picture taken of it.
What is after Freddy's?
Now, so the 4 and 5 spots, I'd say those are the ones that can just get swapped out. any
Right, if they
given
lose
day.
a couple of
Yeah.
games, and yeah.
But and I hate to go chains over local spots, but just off the top of
We're
my
just
head,
saying fries though, so it's okay.
just
it's fine.
off the top of my head, when they're fresh, the Wingstop fries are
Okay.
pretty good.
Oh, that's your best take.
I think those are pretty good when they're, but not when not when they've been sitting in like a takeout.
No,
bag
you
for a
got
while.
that's another
In our
one,
daydream,
though.
they're fresh.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's another one too, where the Wingstop fries are a little bit fatty, but the crispy bits are nice. But you gotta eat them right away. Like you gotta that's my one thing. The reason why I do like McDonald's fries so much is that you don't necessarily like the container is so big that even after eating that first wave of having the hot fries, there's enough moisture at the bottom of the bag to where they're still hot
Yeah,
even after you've
good
gone
take.
through the good
That's
parts.
true.
Like
Broken down like
it's-
John
it's-
Madden.
It's like they've made the packaging of McDonald's fries to insulate themselves basically, and so
Smart.
you have a
I didn't even
part
think about it
one
that way.
and part two. So once you're like, because everybody knows your first McDonald's fry is not in the house; it is while you are driving back to the house in the bag. You got your hand here,
Mhm.
right? If you got a
Mhm.
little kid sitting in the front, they probably open it up and they've tilted it toward you for most efficiency, and you're having those fries. And then when you get home, right, however long that may take you, you have some nice, moist, hot McDonald's fries.
And if you're getting food for someone, it's a fry tax.
What's your
Them's the rules.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What is your Calvin says, how do we feel about battered fries or steak fries? I like steak fries. Battered fries are meh.
I guess I'm not.
I'm equal
Is
opportunity.
batter one
Yeah.
of those crispier? Like I think
I'm not
batter
really
would be
totally sure
crispier.
what battered
Calvin,
is.
what is a battered fry?
Yeah, I guess I haven't heard.
I mean, you like battered fish, so I'm thinking some sort of crispiness.
I think it's one of those. You ever have a fry? You're like, oh, this is.
Okay. So it's kind of. I
the
guess I
screen.
just didn't know that that's what these were called. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
like DJ's dugout.
Yes.
Their
Oh,
style.
hell yes,
Yeah.
Calvin.
Yes, those are Flight Deck
Yeah.
has those types of
Like I was
fries.
gonna say
as
that.
Those
well.
are. I do like batter.
I
That's
like
good.
batter. That's a great call, Calvin. But I think that's more of an argument of like, is that the best? What are the best types of fries?
So
Like, that's a whole other
here-
argument that you talk about, right?
I might cheat with number 5 a little bit.
You can cheat, it's okay.
I'm
It's
just going to
legal.
say any Greek place, any fries from a Greek place where they throw that amazing seasoning
Well,
on.
those
And you can like
are
dip it
those
into
fries
ziti.
or are those potatoes? Because there's a bit of a difference.
All
That-
fries are
So
potatoes.
so like Gyro Kings on Saddle Creek, they have some of the best
Yes,
fries. Like I
okay,
love that place. If
okay.
you haven't been, it's phenomenal.
Okay.
Really good food. And their fries are great. And they just put this
I
really
don't
good
know.
seasoning on it.
When you talk about potato, because I agree with you, because that's another type of like when you go to a Greek place and you get potatoes there and they put it in the packaging, that's another one where the moisture has a factor, right?
Yeah.
In terms of kind of that like I don't know, and then they have a little bit of lemon on top of it too. Like I don't know if that's a potato or a fry, but I love to eat starch in that manner.
Yeah. Bayman on the stream, potato ole is greater than fries.
See, I don't know what is that potato ole like.
So those are
frozen?
like,
Yeah, like Taco
at Taco
John's.
John's, the little like
See, I've
round
never been.
potatoes.
Dip it in the cheese
I've
cup.
It's
never
kind of like
been-
a little tiny hash brown ish.
Isn't
Yes,
that a
Calvin.
tater tot?
Potato wedges are considered fry. They're all fries. They're all related. They'll all
I
be at
don't
the
know.
family.
I feel like a fry's got to be a fry.
They're
Like,
all
I think you
fries.
gotta
They're
fry
all.
'em.
They're all. It's a cousin. It's potato wedges are delicious. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if that's a poll question. Are potato wedges considered
I'll
fries?
throw it
yeah,
out.
you go. Yeah, you can go ahead.
That's a poll. Okay.
Because I don't think Josh and Connor were going to have that on their show today. So I don't know this though.
Maybe
we don't
maybe
plan
we
ahead.
should. Yeah, it should
They
be the
may
crossover.
also have some things planned for you.
I love revisiting this every now and then. I love just talking about what people think about fries.
Fries
It's
are-
endless conversation.
And
Well, I
you're
mean,
the
you could
perfect
go on
person to be
forever.
here because you and I have had passionate romantic
have.
discussions about fries.
Okay.
And
We
this
care
is a
deeply.
romantic
Well,
day.
Talking about discussions that you can have that can go on forever and ever and ever. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft coming up in the next segment. We got a very special guest, Mr. Chad Forbes of Draft Bites. He's on Twitter. Go and give him a follow. One of the best in the business. His bio is one of the best things I've ever read. It says stressing about all 32 teams' offensive line. That's exactly how I like my draft analyst guy. Right in the trenches. We'll be bringing up Chad here in the next segment. You're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. What a song. What a song to introduce our next guest, who really is a rock star. We're going to bring in, and by the way, people are saying, wow, the Super Bowl ended. The NFL's over. We're done talking about the NFL. No,
The NFL
no,
never
no.
ends.
It's the Super Bowl for the Cowboys fan over there, the Bears fan over here, and the Colts fan behind the desk. It's draft season, and so we bring in from NFL Draft Bites, Mr. Chad Forbes. Chad, how you doing, my man?
NFL hot stove is upon us, and that's my favorite time of year.
Absolutely. It's hey, as someone whose team is never in the playoffs, it is my favorite time of the year. Absolutely. So,
That's what we got.
Chad, this draft, and I know you know this, is absolutely loaded this year with not just defensive linemen, but offensive linemen. Give me kind of the rundown here. Who are some of the best prospects that you're looking at in the trenches that fans are going to want their teams to draft?
If you love the big guys, it's a tremendous defensive tackle group.
Yeah.
The best we've seen in years. Just, all different shapes and sizes, 3 techniques, 5 techniques. You got one in Nebraska who's going to go in the mid rounds that could have a really long career in Ty Robinson.
Yep.
It's a great offensive line class, really good offensive tackles. Not necessarily like a transcendent prospect at top, but you could probably find a starting tackle in the second or third round, which is, really rare. And another really good running back class. And we've talked about the value of the position for so many years, but kids just still love to play running back, and there's some really good ones in this class. So it's a very exciting group, and looking forward to the combine in a few weeks.
So let's kind of move here into the combine a little bit, and we'll just get right to it. You brought up Ty Robinson, who I think is the best prospect, in my opinion, that's coming out of Nebraska. He had a really good year in the Big Ten, a lot of speed, a lot of size, really great strength. He's mocked right now to go in day 3. What do you think he has to do at the combine to prove that he could be maybe a day 2, late day 2 type player?
Well, it's there on tape, right? And he's a really good kid and comes out of the Nebraska program. He's tough. I wrote down in my notes earlier in the season, he's a clone of Jared Crick and Adam Carricker, right? You know what you're getting. Nice. He's not going to be an explosive interior rusher, but I think he's going to be a sturdy part of a rotation for a lot of years. And also the guy that ran next to him, Nash Hutmeyer, who didn't get invited to the combine, he could also find his way into late day 3.
And so another guy coming out of Nebraska that definitely I think is on a lot of people's minds, and I don't know, Chad, you can disagree with me here, but I think he's such an interesting prospect because of the injury history. Definitely is going to maybe scare some people off, but the production has definitely been there at Nebraska. It's the tight end Thomas Fidone, who did get invited to the combine. It's kind of the same question here. What do you think are the questions that Fidone has to answer in order to hear his name called come draft day?
Yeah, he's such an interesting story as an Iowa prospect, right? The number 2 tight end in the class, teammates with Max Dugan there at Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
He comes to Nebraska, and it's a couple lost years, and then all of a sudden bursts onto the scene. I got to see him and the entire Nebraska team live at the Pinstripe Bowl here in New York, and that might have been one of his best games. And what I kind of come away with saying is George Kittle in his career at Iowa, right? In 40 games, he had 48 career receptions. So a tight end being underutilized in these college offenses, that happens all the time. Mm-hmm. I'll say this. He's not getting past the Eagles at the end of round 5. He's a guy that maybe in a year or two could be you're starting tight end. And that's really rare to say about a kid that's probably going to go in the 5th round. There's some questions on his blocking, but he's underutilized, but you see the speed in person. And there's 5 catches that I saw at the Yankee Stadium. I came away saying he's a top 10 tight end in this class.
Are you brought up the Eagles there? Do you know something? Or is that a team that's already kind of pegged Fidone? You think, or is that I don't know? What's that insight?
I'm a draft nerd, right? And they got Dallas Goedert at the end of his contract with some injury question marks. He's not going to probably be there in 2026. And the Eagles have 2 or 3 picks there at the end of round 5. And I just say to myself, that's got to be the floor for this guy. He really fits what they look for in the tight end position.
Okay, wow.
I'll play here. And Emmitt Smith before the Super Bowl said that the Cowboys should not draft Ashton Genty. What do you think when he says that? Is he off base there, or is he the real deal as it pertains to the pros? I mean, we know he's a real deal in college. He was great.
Well, it's interesting coming from Emmitt, right?
Yeah.
It's really an analytics discussion of, you can jump into free agency, which happened last offseason, and get a Derrick Henry or a Saquon Barkley for like $9 million to $13 million a year. So
they did not.
Using your first round pick on a running back when it's a cost controlled proposition, analytics says don't do it. But if you believe the guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he was just off the charts this year at Boise State, I mean, did some things that were just fantastic. And then maybe you take him at 12. The analytics community last year said, don't take Brock Bowers in the top 10 because he's a tight end. You could buy those in free agency. Well, there aren't many Brock Bowers to be had in free agency.
Yeah.
So maybe the analyst community gets it wrong every once in a while. And Jinty, he's a really special player. I could see him going as high as like 5 to the Jaguars. I know they've got 2 running backs on that roster with Etienne and the Auburn back. The Auburn back's a good player. Etienne's been a bit of a disappointment. But if they really want to, revitalize that running game, he was born in Jacksonville. That could be an interesting fit. To me, he doesn't get beyond Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos at 20.
Okay, great insight there. So we'll group them together because they're so polarizing, but at the end of the day, they are great prospects. The 2 Colorado Buffaloes who are pegged to go in the first round. I'll give you a 2-parter. First off, is Travis a corner? Is he a wide receiver? Where would you draft him at? And number 2, does Shedeur, where does he fall? Is he one of the top 2 picks in this draft, or could you see him falling out of the top 10?
Travis Hunter is a better wide receiver than people are giving him credit for. And this idea that he's a cornerback that, plays a little bit of wide receiver is crazy to me. Get him in the right place. Let him play both sides of the ball. I'm not as high on him if he's just purely a corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can take a corner in the top 2 or 3 picks. It doesn't really make sense to me in terms of impacting the game. I'm more of a build from the inside out guy. But if you can get a guy that can play, 50, 60 snaps on defense plus 40 snaps on offense and be an impact wide receiver, which, I think he can be, then yeah, you take him in the top 5. A team that I'd love to see trade up for him, given the wide receiver and corner, their 2 needs, is the New Orleans Saints sitting there at 9.
Mm-hmm.
And with Shedeur, now I watched him against Nebraska. By the way, Tommy Hill's interception return, that was his play of the year.
Yeah, we'll get to Tommy in a second. Don't worry about that. We'll talk about it.
I see a lot of I kind of compare it to a point guard. Right, with Cam Ward, you see him drive the ball down the field vertically.
Yeah.
With Shedeur, it's get the ball and either get the ball out quickly or he starts to kind of fade around in the pocket and not make quick decisions. Shedeur doesn't have the big arm, and so it comes down to he's accurate, he's tough, he's got functional mobility, but he's not a great athlete. So how much do you value arm strength? And Shedeur, don't love the idea of him in the top 3, but he's going to go there.
Okay.
People keep trying to manufacture a third quarterback prospect to keep with these top 2 guys. I think it's more that Shedeur's been manufactured into being an elite quarterback prospect, where in most years, if his name wasn't Shedeur Sanders, we'd be talking more about a mid-first or second-round player.
Okay, so we'll go to the guy who picked him off, and I was there in the stadium when that happened. That was one of the greatest moments I've ever witnessed in a live event. Tommy Hill. So Tommy's it's been interesting for him, Chad. Heading into the year, he was kind of pegged as this day 2, maybe second, third round type guy after the really strong end of the season he had last year. But then he starts off incredibly strong this year, then has plantar fasciitis, battling through injuries, wasn't the same player, ends up kind of falling out of the rotation at the end of the year, but still very much an NFL prospect. What do you think that Tommy's got to prove in order to re-improve his stock?
Medicals, if they're clean and if he runs fast, he goes top 115. He's got 34-inch arms, which are basically offensive tackle length. Teams love at the position. It's just so helpful on the contested balls. I look at him and say, oh, that's a guy Pete Carroll's going to love if he can run. Maybe he's a cover 3 style zone corner, but he's got some instincts. And yeah, plantar fasciitis is no joke.
No.
That Colorado game, though, he jumped out to me. So he's a guy with that kind of length. If he can run, 4.5 or lower, he's going to go pretty high.
Wow, that's great insight there. We got a great actual question from the chat here. Cam Scadaboo, became the guy that everybody loved at the end of the year, right? Where do you think his range is? Who are some teams that are going to fall in love with this guy and want to get him on their roster?
Chargers sitting there in round 3 at 86 make a lot of sense. Somewhere between 80 to 100. He's not going to test great, but he's a really good football player. Bit of he's a program changer.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys that don't buy into a Harbaugh won't care that he runs 4.55 or 4.6. They'll say that's a guy that if I hand him the ball 15, 20 times a game, he can put his shoulders down and move forward. And running backs, we really overvalue the testing. When it comes down to it, sure, Alvin Kamara and some of these great running backs test off the charts. But if you're looking for a guy that could just be a sustaining running back, not necessarily an explosive, take it to the house guy, then yeah, he's good value. I love him for the Chargers.
We'll go to, by the way, Chad Fords of NFL Draft Bites, giving us a bunch of great bites here in terms of just prospects and NFL. I want to thank you for coming on. Well, one thing here, one guy we have to get with that I think that we have to address that he was a combine snub. You mentioned him already, Nash Hutmaker, Ty Robinson's running mate. Number one, do you think he gets drafted, and what are the hurdles that he's going to have to overcome in order to get drafted, not being invited to the combine?
Right. Does he go the regional combine route, which are less heralded in the national combine, and does he do some testing? The testing is like less important nowadays, and they have all these markers on these players to figure out what the speed they play at. He might be a practice squad guy, and maybe he goes in the 7th or 6th round. But I think he's a state championship wrestler. Some teams love that. He's a guy that it's such a deep defensive tackle class with I think like 40 of them getting invited to the combine that maybe he goes undrafted. But in most years, you would think that he'd be a combine invite going in like the 6th or 7th round.
We'll leave you with this here, Chad. Where do you think, and I have to ask you this question because I'm a massive Chicago Bears fan, where do you think the Bears go? What need do they have to get, and who's a prospect that I should look into?
Free agency has to start out with that offensive line. They don't have a starting guard on the roster. They've got 2 serviceable tackles. The right tackle is still on his rookie contract. The left tackle is coming up for an extension. And they don't have a center. So for agency, they have to attack one of the guard spots and center. And then sitting there at 10, it's interesting because they go like Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, or more tackles.
Yeah.
And if they drafted one of those guys, then you wouldn't expect an extension for their left tackle. So what they do there will tell you a lot about how they feel about the left tackle who's coming up for a new contract extension. Yeah, there's also some guards there, but 10 is just real high to be taking a guard.
Sure.
Their whole focus there is going to be fixing the offense, right?
Yeah.
But it is such a good draft with pass rushers. I mean, if a Michael Williams gets there, I think that even though it's Ben Johnson, you got to think about going with the pass rusher.
Hey, Mike Green out of Marshall had an incredible Senior Bowl defensive end. Do you think he ends up going to the first round, or do you think just not playing in the Power 5 is going to have him drop to the second?
He's got unbelievable production in a great Senior Bowl week. He lacks length. His arms are under 33 inches, which some teams are just hyper-focused on that. And consider a guy his size. He plays the run better on tape than you would expect for someone that's a little bit around 250, 255. He should go in the first round. I just don't think it's going to be in the top 15.
Shiloh gets drafted, yes or no?
How about this? The Raiders trade up and take Shador.
Yep.
Okay. They trade the 2 or whatever. And they get the Browns' last pick in the draft, and Shiloh is mystery relevant just to appease Dion.
That would be epic theater. Thank you for an epic interview, Chad. We'll definitely have you on in the future closer to draft time. Really appreciate you joining us.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Chad Fords of NFL Draft Bites. Make sure to go and follow him on Twitter. Great stuff there. Fedoni to the Eagles. That was an interesting insight.
They kind of know what they're doing.
I thought maybe he was hearing something. He didn't say this. It wasn't necessarily a scoop that he had on the Eagles' interest in Fedoni, but it was just interesting insight that, yes, Goddard is getting old. He may not be on the roster in the future, and Thomas Fedoni is a guy that the Eagles like in terms of tight end prospects.
Look what they did with Cam and Kelsey training your replacement.
I was about to say, and I think that it's an interesting delve in deep insight from Chad about the fact that they do have plenty of 5th-round picks to spare in that regard. So that'll be really, really interesting. I think Fedoni is such a interesting prospect. It's so fascinating how a guy
Kittle comparison got me too.
Yeah.
Not the play, but the fact that I forgot he didn't have that many catches in college. You wouldn't know that now.
Thomas has to improve a little bit in the run blocking aspect of being a tight end, but he's got all the tools necessary to be a really, really good tight end in the NFL. It's just, can the body hold up, which I'm hoping it does, because that's just a terrible way to not fulfill your career through injuries, because he's got all the talent in the world. And like I said, an incredible mindset to accomplish things in the NFL. And it's just improving on the little things. But man, I love that from Chad.
Pretty damn cool.
I love that from Chad about, he doesn't think he'll get past the Eagles in round 5, because I think that would be a great organization for Fedoni to end up in. You got to remember, the Eagles aren't strangers to having Nebraska tight ends. Jack Stoll has been on that, was on that team when they went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they're not strangers to just drafting Huskers in general. Cam Jurgens, the obvious one, who's a Super Bowl champion and all-pro center for the Philadelphia Eagles. Alrighty, we're entering the last hour of the last day of the working week before we head to the weekend. We got Matt Verzal coming up at 9:20. Do a little baseball preview coming up. Oh, the sun is out. The breeze is
not here.
Well, no.
You got the breeze here, though.
But in Arizona, we're having baseball. There you go, Jimmy. Mr. Technical. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. Keeping it rocking and rolling here.
Last hour, that was quick.
Last hour.
It's flying.
We have sped through the show. Hey, if you've missed any part of the show, go back to where you get your podcast. Check it out. We had Tim Kruger, our bracketologist, on talking about the current landscape of the NCAA tournament. And then we were joined by Chad Forbes of NFL Draft Bites talking about the 4 Nebraska Cornhuskers that are going to the NFL Combine and the one snub in Nash Huntmaker. I'm sure we'll get plenty of that conversation going when we have Matt Verzal join us at 9:20. We go to the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, we do banking differently.
Hi, Doug.
Doug, you work at a bank?
He does. He's working today.
John emails in. Fedoni is his subject line. If someone walks near Fedoni at the Combine and he falls down without being touched, do you think it'll hurt his draft status? Yes, I think if Thomas Fedoni
What if he makes
falls
him laugh
down
when he does it?
at his draft combine, it would hurt. The yards after catch obviously are a subject of concern with Thomas Fedoni. What is not a subject of concern is his ability to get open on the field when given the opportunity. See what happens. Hopefully he gets stronger and he ends up getting drafted. If Thomas Fedoni gets drafted by the right franchise, I think he's one of those guys. If he gets drafted by the right franchise, he can end up doing some really good things.
And the Eagles
in
would
the
be an
NFL.
example
But
of that
they-
if that happens.
Abso-freaking-lutely. John also writes in, subject line is Freddy's.
Oh, okay.
He goes, wrong again, Matt. I don't know when I
No,
was
you're gonna
wrong
get some.
before.
You're gonna get some blowback on this. I figured.
Freddy's fries are awesome. And you should like them because Freddy's is actually spelled with D's. This is everyone making fun of my lisp that I didn't know existed.
Oh, like Creighton. Okay, I got you.
Because I say Creighton.
Okay. So how do you
And-
say Freddy's? You say Fretties?
Freddy's.
Oh, okay.
I want to tell you something right now.
You can tell me lots of things. Just
No
don't say
one
the
in
F
my
word.
life had ever told me that I say the letter T wrong until I got to this radio station. And I want to contend right now. I still say Creighton. It's just not Creighton or Dayton.
Creighton.
Like I don't emphasize it. It just rolls off the tongue.
The T.
Creighton. No, that was a bad one. That was on purpose. But no. Freddy's. Sure. Maybe I don't want to keep having burgers, guys. This
You're
is why I
young. It
don't-
doesn't go anywhere. You've
This
lost
is
what,
why-
50 pounds?
This is why I don't have a Valentine today because I
'Cause of-
keep going to DJ's and having burgers and sliders and beers, and I keep going to Flight Deck and having fries that are battered. Keep having the grilled cheese and the fairy nectars. This
I don't
is
hear
why,
any issues.
I don't either. I ate like crap in college, and
this
that
is
didn't
why,
affect me any.
This is why there's no Valentine's Day date for Matt McMaster. All right. So don't stop telling me everyone's saying you got to go to Taco John's and you got to go to Freddy's and you got to go here. No. Look
Just
at me.
Go
I've
for
eaten
a
enough.
Walk afterwards.
I've eaten enough.
All right. He says he's going bald. Yes, I know he is. He has a nice head of lettuce right now, so he's got that going for him. He's got youth. He's got energy.
I am going bald.
The
Look
youth.
at
He's
it-
got what's that word? Jake? Chutzpah.
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 Look what he did outside yesterday. He
Yeah,
had
well,
chutzpah.
it's dang it. Look, Mount McMaster, the flag is flying right now. And if you were going down 50th and Dodge, you could actually
If we get a huge windy day, is it going to just
It
go
is supposed to
flying
be
into
windy
the street?
today. The wind's
Um,
supposed to pick up over 30 miles an hour.
It is angled at the point where I don't think it'll get. That's a good point, Peter. Maybe I should go out there and make sure
Just
that
flying
it's
into
stable.
someone's windshield.
I really hope.
That'd be
How long is the next break?
that'd be a doomsday
I'll give you
scenario.
my key.
But it is.
Yeah, I did forget my key today into the
I
office.
forgot his
Jimmy.
wallet. Freaked me out.
Oh, the whole wallet.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's at home.
It's at home, but I was driving home or driving here, and I felt the pocket. I go, oops. Hope I don't.
Been there. Not a fun feeling.
Hope I don't get pulled over.
So I got a call and a text. Can you let me in?
Well, yeah,
I didn't
because
hear the
Jimmy doesn't
phone ring.
answer his text. So I go, "Can you let me in?" And he doesn't say yes or no. And then so I'm standing out there for
It's
a minute.
it's for the dramatic effect.
Will he let me in?
Will he leave me out?
I know I had to record it.
Doing the show from the
Podcast.
parking lot could have been fun.
Published. By the way, the Take 5 podcast was debuted yesterday. It's my new little pet project. It's a 5-minute Nebraska sports.
No pets.
I wouldn't say it's a recap. It's more of a take of the biggest thing happening in Nebraska sports.
They're your
It'll
thoughts.
be released in the morning, every single morning if you want to check it out. Take 5.
So when do you
is the
record
name.
this? At night or
I
in the morning,
record it in the morning. I get here pretty early. Today I recorded it, and it wasn't that great, so I'm going to go and re-record it and publish it after the show.
That.
But take 5, just a little 5-minute pod. You get a quick take from your man, Matt McMaster. Go and check it out everywhere where you can get
5-minute
your
toilet break.
podcast.
Yeah.
5 minutes or less, you get the big story, and then you get to go on your little primer for the day. Hopefully you listen to it, and then you hope you listen to the rest of this show. Do you know what's going on today?
Besides Valentine's, and we need to get you a Valentine, which if we'd have known that, we could have done a contest, call in.
No.
Content.
They wanted me to do that. They wanted me to do at my former employer. They had this like blind date over the
one
radio.
in Lincoln?
Yes, the one in Lincoln on Froggy.
Oh.
They wanted me to do the blind date thing where they bring like a girl on Zoom
Is
and
she
then
blind?
you zoom in. I don't know if she can
because there's this
see-
commercial where this dude's like rizzing up a girl who's deaf, and he's totally like with candy, and yeah, I know. Oh, this is supposed to be cute. Cute. This guy is like preying on the. Anyway,
You're setting me up for some bad jokes here. Someone's gonna be like, "Yeah, that's the only way Matt can get a girl if she can't listen."
what does Gary say? You do not apologize for winning. I don't buy into all this. You know what, Matt? If you win 6-3 or 55-10, guess what? You still win.
Yeah,
Iowa beat Nebraska at the end of the season 13-10. I don't think they were complaining. Hey, we only scored 13 points. They scored 10. Nebraska's won some low-scoring games. Oh, look at that.
Never apologize.
Iowa once beat Penn State. What was it? 4-0? 6-4.
Oh,
6-4.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Anyone have
was in
good
college.
Valentine's Day recommendations for the radio? Go ahead and email us here if you have any bad
Yeah,
Valentine's Day
shoot it our
stories.
way.
We would love to hear it.
Suggestions for Matt.
Nebraska baseball begins today.
There you
I'm
go.
very excited.
Baseball date.
Baseball. I'm sure Nick Grimm is very excited.
He's already
for,
tweeted. He
baseball
tweeted
I've
before we
seen-
were on the air.
to start. They play UC Irvine to start today, 2 p.m. Mason McConaughey, the preseason All-American, will be on the mound. McConaughey had a really good year last year, 3.45 ERA, made an All-Big Ten team. Going to fill some big shoes. A lot of big shoes to be filled this year for Nebraska baseball. Josh Caron has since departed. He went to the MLB draft. Brett Sears, MLB draft. McConaughey is going to have to fill those shoes. I mean, Brett Sears, what a great story. You know, transfers from Western Illinois. He was a Leatherneck. Goes out, has an okay first year with the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Doesn't really light the world on fire by no means the imagination, but he went out to his summer league. I think it was I forget what league he was in. He was in a good league, and he was killing it in the summer.
It was not the California Penal.
Comes back into the fall ball, still killing it. There was a lot of buzz about Sears entering the season that he had found his stuff, and boy, were they right. I mean, the buzz was absolutely correct. He had an insane season in the Big Ten, ends up getting drafted. But McConaughey, very quietly, was also a pillar of last year's team. You know, pitched 73 innings, had 91 strikeouts. 9-3 on the year, 3.45 ERA. He is slotted to be the number one guy. But the big question, you know, and this is exactly why they brought in Rob Childress to be the pitching coach, because they knew that they needed to build depth within that pen if they were going to compete at a high level, not just in the Big Ten, but in college baseball in general. Childress has done exactly that, and they have 4 pretty solid guys. Mason McConaughey is a star, but then even after that, you have Ty Horn, Will Walsh, and Jackson Brockett, who are going to round out this 4-game season opening that's going to go from Friday all the way to Monday. I'm going to be really interested in tomorrow's game, Jimmy, when they take on number 16 Vanderbilt. Ty Horn will be on the mound. It'll be a great test for the righty to see if he really can step into the role that McConaughey had last year.
I still can't believe we're here already. The college baseball is starting. I'm excited. You know why? Warmth. That's what it's going to lead to.
Yeah.
All roads lead here in June. Your first
Well,
CWS as a zone employee.
I told you last week that we had fool's spring. That weather that we were having with the 40, 50, 60 degrees, that was all a hunk of you know what. And that wasn't going to last. And now next week, Peter, you're the weather guy.
It's supposed to get
traffic
colder.
guy. Yeah,
Colder.
what's next week's weather?
Not great.
Yeah. Back to you guys.
Thank you for the analysis, Peterman.
Not Scottsdale, Arizona.
Well, guys, have you seen Empire Strikes Back? It's going to be a little cooler than that. Back to you. And I'm talking about the beginning, not when he goes to Dagobah.
Have you seen Titanic when they're in the ocean?
Jeez, that door was big enough, and everybody knows it. All right, Rose knew it.
Day
and
after tomorrow.
So did the directors. Look, I know a lot's going to be made out about the pitching staff of this Nebraska baseball
Did you just
team.
drop a Titanic in there?
He dropped the Titanic.
Oh, you're talking about the movie. That's what I meant.
Yeah. No, I dropped Titanics elsewhere, if you know what I mean. I believe
there's a crossover on that.
This batting lineup really good too. You still have Brumbaugh, still have Dylan Carey, still have Gabe Swanson, still some really, really good bats. It's going to be interesting to see how Hogan Halegso ends up taking over that catcher spot for Josh Caron, who did a really, really good job last year. He was a All Big East recognition in 2023. He hit 286 with almost 50 RBIs, did Hogan, so he'll be taking over that spot. But it's going to be a really good lineup that, they return about 2/3 of their hits, over half of their RBIs, and over half of their home runs. I mean,
there should be a good team if they're healthy.
If they're healthy, and that's always what baseball's about, and less so in college and the MLB, because they're not playing 162 games. They're playing way less than that, but still. I've always been impressed with Will Bolt and his ability not only just to I like that Will Bolt is Will Bolt. Right? Will Bolt's going to coach the way that Will Bolt wants to play. You want to say Bolt ball, Colt, whatever you want. You can't tell him any other way. He believes that there's a way to win games in baseball. He believes there's a way to win games with the roster that he's constructed here at Nebraska. And you know what? It's what he does, man. The guy's a winner.
Well, they like him, and he likes them. They're usually on the same page as far as team goes. So.
Exactly. And I loved when we interviewed Ed Service, and I know that this is kind of clashing worlds together here, which, by the way, Creighton also begins their season today at 1 p.m. when they take on UNC Greensboro in Greensboro, North Carolina. Ed Service kind of talked about how there had been guys on that team long enough who kind of knew what they were doing, right? Who knew what Ed
corporate knowledge.
Yeah, who knew what Ed was thinking before they even were told what Ed was thinking. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the same thing with Will Bolt. And what I appreciate about Will Bolt is that there are some coaches at times that are afraid to set high expectations and put them out in the open because they're afraid that they might get exposed or that might come around to bite them. I appreciate the fact that Bolt has not shied away from that. He's made it very clear that they want to go and they want to host regionals in the NCAA tournament, and they want to be a type of team that can be angling always. There's always a threat to make the College World Series, to be in Omaha, and they have.
Wouldn't that be fun?
A hell of a roster that they've developed. And, I think the biggest thing for this team is outside of McConaughey, who can be that superstar, who can be that big MLB bat. Dylan Carey's really good and Brumbaugh's really good. And I'm excited to see what Silva does at that leadoff spot. But they are kind of missing that Max Anderson, Bryce Matthews, mega bat. Gabe Swanson, he can be that guy, but it's just all about kind of consistency for him. I'm excited about this team. They're ranked to begin the season for a reason. They have really good coaching, really good players, and just a lot of experience, right? Coach Childress talked about how, if you're going to have a lineup 1 through 9 in the college game, you want to have about 25 years of service time. I mean, this is a team that has, damn near that. And so a lot of experience on this team, a lot of returning production. Should be an exciting year for Nebraska baseball, who kicks off their season today at 2:00, UC Irvine in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Did they get the best assignment? See, we got Creighton and Greensboro. I don't know where Omaha is.
Let's see.
Tough to beat Scottsdale, so but you never know.
I think they're in Baton Rouge.
Oh well, as someone who's been there, yeah, I've been there. It's fun.
I'm looking right now.
Go Tigers.
I'm almost positive.
Go Tigers.
Here we go. 2025. There we go. You make me go all the way. I'm almost positive they're in Louisiana State University. They're in Tulane. So they're in New Orleans.
Still fun.
They're in New Orleans. Then they go to Thibodaux. Is that how you say it? Thibodaux, Louisiana. Thibodaux. Play Nichols, and then they go from Thibodaux to Baton Rouge to play the number 3 ranked Louisiana State University Tigers.
Omaha's other team.
Yeah, Omaha's team,
You'll see.
Omaha Mavericks, I mean, they had a rough start to last year, but they definitely wrote the ship at the end of the year and were able to host
University.
a Summit League playoff game last year. It isn't going to get any easier, but we talked to head coach Evan Porter and about the fact that these are important and you focus on yourself, and this is good for development and finding out what type of team they have.
They make you better.
They're going to find out, man. They're going to play some really good teams. Tulane, Louisiana State, Kansas. I mean, it's going to be a grind, but it's going to make them better at the end, and then they get into Summit League action toward the spring. So baseball starts today. Should be exciting.
Unrelated to baseball, I just did see this pop across the timeline. I know people were worried from the report about YouTube TV and Paramount.
Oh, yes.
They have reached a short-term agreement, so you will get your March Madness and your Masters on YouTube TV.
I did see that yesterday. I was worried.
This does impact you. That's right.
I'm a YouTube TV man. I'm a YouTube TV. Hey, I cut the cord. Did you hear about this? I cut the cord. There were too many people who were mooching off my YouTube TV. I went and I changed my Gmail password, and then I went in to my settings, and it said all the TVs that I was hooked up to, my YouTube TV, cut them all off. The only one that I reestablished was the ones that my parents have at their place in Chicago.
Hope so.
Hot take by me might come off as bitter. I don't like when people use my accounts.
Yeah,
sorry, get your own. You know what? I'm fine with letting you use it at my house, or like if you're on the road, maybe you're bored and you want to watch something. I'm like, okay, fine. But it gets a little there. I let it get a little out of control at one point.
Let me say this right now.
I had to change some passwords.
I have no problem giving you my password to use my YouTube TV, to use my Hulu, to use whatever
work email,
whatever it may be. I have no problem whatsoever. But don't feel like you're entitled to it. Yeah. Okay?
And that's the line here.
Don't get mad at me when I take it away from you.
Your friends
don't
are
pay
entitled
for it. It's not your YouTube TV. Your name is not Matthew James McMaster. Yeah, I just used my government name on the radio. Come find me. I'm easy to find.
Well, yeah, there's a mountain with your name out there.
It's Mount McMaster. So, yeah, like, I have no problem being like, all right, man, like, no, here's my Hulu, here's my Netflix, here's my... Just don't roll your eyes at me or give me a call when I tell you, nah, we're done. You're not doing this anymore.
Your friends are upset with you right now.
Yeah, there are people who are upset that I cut them off.
They're like, big time McMaster gets a big boy job and cuts off his guys. We knew him win.
I had some friends lived in Omaha. They used one of my accounts. I'm like, whatever. They moved to Chicago. I get a text. Hey, what's the account information?
No,
I'm like,
no.
No
way.
I'm like, all right.
I know a guy who used one of my friend's YouTube TVs for 4 years. For 4 years.
That's a lot of money too.
And he is the type of guy who when he got cut off, he got mad about it. I actually knew a guy too who used his ex's YouTube TV for quite a while.
There's a Valentine's Day thing.
For maybe I think a year after they broke up, he was still using that girl's.
That'll show her.
Absolutely.
Have you been using my YouTube TV? I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not me.
Yeah, lose this number.
Okay. Well, we got a big guest coming in to talk some football,
Don't use his YouTube TV deal without permission.
No. We're going to bring in Matt Verzal here after this break. You're listening to Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Every day I'm hustling.
Matt Verzel.
You know, Matt, he's a tremendous athlete.
Matt Verzel.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
Every day I'm hustling.
Come on, Matt. Matt Verzel.
I'm with you. Every day I'm hustling.
It's Friday at 9:20, so you know what that means. We bring in our football aficionado, Mr. Matt Verzel. Matt, how you doing, my man?
Good. How you fellas doing?
We're doing great today. Hey, 4 Nebraska Cornhuskers going to the NFL Combine. Fedoni, Tommy Hill, Ty Robinson, Isaiah Nayer. Hutmaker got snubbed ridiculously. But how much would it mean to this Nebraska program for its future if they could get all 4, maybe even 5 of those guys drafted?
You know, anytime you get guys to the Combine, it means you got some athletes that have potential, and it's always good to get exposure, which Nebraska needs a bunch of that, and need to win games and get guys out in the national spotlight. I don't know how much it affects your ongoing recruiting, but it's always good. I'm probably more happy for the kids that they get the chance. So
yeah,
best of luck to the fellas, and hope they have a great day.
You always have a great insight, especially when it comes to Ty Robinson. When we talk about him, what do you think that he's got to prove at this Combine to rightfully get drafted into that more day 2, upper day 3, maybe back half of day 2 area?
He's got all the physical attributes you need, right? He's got the size. I think the questions they're going to have are his athleticism. So, you know, how he does in the agility runs, the 3-cone drill, those kind of things are going to be what people want to see out of him. But as far as like strength and explosiveness, he's going to be a straight up zero technique. So now you're kind of tailored down. Zero technique means you're just going to line head up on the center, and then he'll be, you know, a team that needs that player will be watching him quite a bit to see what he can do. I mean, you just got to go perform. There's no pressure. You're not, you know, expected to be a day 1 guy, so you should be fully relaxed and go out and do your best. And then you're just looking for an opportunity to prove everybody wrong.
You brought something up in your first answer that I kind of want to hit back on here, because I think before NIL, this was a major kind of recruiting tool, right? Because going to the NFL is how you got paid, right? You got paid when you got drafted. And so teams could walk up to recruits and say, hey, we got X amount of guys drafted. We got these guys to the Combine. If you come here, we're a proven development type of program. We can get to the NFL. How much do you think NIL has decreased that kind of marketing tool for teams?
I think that ploy or that avenue to try to get players isn't, you know, I struggle with it, because if that's the vision you're selling, you're telling every kid you're recruiting that you're the 1% of the 1% of the world. Right. So that's a tough sell. To me, the guys that sell that vision, which is what Nebraska tried to do for quite a while, and had literally zero success with it. That's not something that I would even focus on. Like my sales pitch, which is what it is now, is, hey, we're going to make you the best human being you can be. We're going to get you an education. Through our process, we feel we can make you the best player possible. Okay? If that then means that you're talented enough to play in the NFL, then we have connections, and we have zero doubt in our development that we can get you there. So to try to sell the NFL vision it's fool's gold. Like there's 30. Well, we'll triple it. There's 100 and some odd quarterback jobs in the NFL. That ain't very many.
Yeah.
So sell the different vision of, hey, we're going to make you a good human being. We're going to make you a good teammate, and then let the rest fall where it may. We think you're talented enough to get there, but you never know what could happen.
You know, we've heard Matt Rule, you know, he sells, I think, the latter of what you were talking about, right? But he definitely has brought up the fact that they want to be a program that sends guys to the NFL, and they want to develop these people, and it's definitely something that they talk about. I mean, it sounds like to you, in your opinion, maybe, you know, to fully abandon that, you think, and just focus on, hey, we're a person in human development and not necessarily an NFL-only development program?
Nobody is an NFL-only development program, and you cannot abandon anything. Like that would be
okay.
That would be like we're trying to make a bunch of nice guys. right?
Yeah.
That's not the reality.
Sure.
Your program has to be all encompassing, but what you build on is people like winners. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Successful high schools that have successful academic programs are built around winning.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't winning speech and it ain't winning debate. Those are great things. Okay? So it's about winning sports competitions because everybody walks a little swaggier when you win sports competitions. All right? Translates over into college. You want to be a dude or you want to have a great college, you want to have high enrollment, win.
Yeah.
Win at everything. Don't just win at a couple things. Because with winning, especially in your major sport, which is football, comes money.
Yeah.
Money increases facilities. Facilities increase enrollment. And it just is this beautiful cycle that continues on when you win. So we look at football, professional football. How did everybody that's won this year win? Any kind of football.
Yeah.
Good offensive line play, good defensive line play. That's all you need. Those that want the shiny toys, we got 17 receivers and they can all do this. That is fantastic. That is a great luxury to have. You got to throw the ball in 0.3 seconds. Let me know how that goes for you.
Yeah.
Okay? When you become a factory of offensive and defensive linemen, then you will succeed. Straight up.
Great insight.
Watching along those lines, watching the Super Bowl on Sunday and watching Philly just get pressure with 4 guys up front. I mean, that had to be impressive in itself. Do you think it was part of just that, or the Chiefs' offensive line just didn't seem in sync, or a little bit of both?
I think the Chiefs. Okay, so the Chiefs, after they lost to Tampa, what did they do?
They went and they drafted guys at the O-line.
Nope. They went and got linemen.
Sure.
Free agency, all over, draft. They knew that was a problem. What did the Chiefs do then? They went on a historical run. Okay, shout out to the Chiefs, even though I hate Kansas City. But then, once success came, what did they do?
They abandoned.
We got D-Hop. We got Hollywood Brown. We got Xavier Worthy. We got all these dudes. They don't have Hollywood Brown. But anyway, you got all these dudes. And you said, we can patchwork the offensive line. You took an amazing guard and you put yourself in a position where you had to move him out to tackle. Guards in the NFL don't go to tackle. It's not a deal. It doesn't work. So he's a dude, and he did everything he could. But you saw what a guy that had moved to guard or to tackle looked like against the guy that had played tackle. Like there's a difference in it. So what I would guess this Chiefs are going to do in the offseason is if I'm a lineman, a free agent lineman, I'm going to look at the highest guy at my position, and I'm going to ask for about $1 million more than that guy because the Chiefs are going to be in the market. Because they know now, hey, we cannot neglect this anymore. This has to be a strength of our team because they got trucked. I mean, they got destroyed. And even Patrick Mahomes, who's a great quarterback, looks human when he has no time. Philly, in their draft, look what they do. They draft defensive linemen.
Yeah. And they draft pass rushers,
that
too.
That line is young. That defensive line is young.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're going to be a problem for a long time.
And another thing, too, Matt, it all goes back to winning, right? Because where did they draft from? Jordan Davis, Georgia. Jalen Carter, Georgia. Nakobe Dean, Georgia. Nolan Smith, Georgia. Like, they drafted winners. Like that, had that call with Howie Roseman when he calls Nolan Smith and says, I'm a Florida Gator. I hate drafting these Georgia Bulldogs. And Nolan Smith goes, well, you want to win. When you are I'll put you in the shoes of an NFL GM. How much does it matter to you if you're drafting a guy that they've been at the top level of winning before in the college game?
It's the only thing that matters. I don't want to have to teach someone that winning is the best drug ever created. I want somebody that knows it's the best drug created because then I don't have to teach them the work that goes into it, the extra they have to do, the more prepared they have to be to never feel the feeling of losing, right?
Yeah.
I want guys that they're obsessed with winning and they hate losing. Those guys are the ones that change directions, of course, like of your program or of your organization. It works in business. We hire athletes. We very rarely have somebody that is a non-athlete because athletes are competitive.
Yeah.
Then you put out a bounty and say, hey, whoever does this, whoever finds my secret shopper says this, you get cash money. We have an item on our menu. It's called a brew for the crew. We know we're going to give you good service, but if you think your meal was above and beyond, you can buy a 6-pack for the boys in the back.
Nice.
They can experience it when they turn 21. Right?
Yeah.
Works out great for them by the time they turn 21 because I take them young and we work them hard and they learn how to work and be men. A lot of them get a keg by the time they're 21. That is the greatest thing in the world. Okay? But they've earned it.
Yeah.
And they've worked their ass off to do it. And they deserve it because they win. They win the night. We go against Omaha, the beautiful city of Omaha, every night of the week. So us versus you. Let's see who wins.
Yeah.
We win more than we lose.
I love that. Hey, so let's talk about a guy who I think is an absolutely fascinating prospect coming out of Nebraska, Thomas Fidone. Right now, he is actually the highest ranked PFF guy out of the Nebraska prospects at 166, but on the NFL mock draft database, he's not really going on a lot of mocks. Matt, your view on him, what do you think his ceiling is as an NFL tight end?
There's a lot to work on.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think his hands and his athleticism, they're great. I think the physicality of the game, he's got to work on a lot, like just a ton. And that's, I had high hopes from when he came in. I was told everything, this, that, the third, is he's a dominant blocker and he gets open and never saw it. So that's, I would be in the opposite camp of you. I wish him all the best. I think if you get to the pros and you click with a coach and then it works out and you can develop all those things, they are things that you can learn. But there's a lot of learning to do.
The physicality aspect, and this isn't just to Fidone, this is kind of just a general question. When you have someone who you say that this person's got to get better with the physicality of the game, is that more of a tangible thing? Is that more of a body thing, or do you think that's all? It's a mental thing in getting more physical when playing any sort of sport.
It's how you practice. Like you practice physicality. You guys have heard the stories.
Yeah.
Of the bloodbaths that were Tuesday and Wednesday at Nebraska in the 90s, and it was fantastic. But everybody knew what was coming. Everybody knew you better have it strapped on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you decided you were hurt or you didn't want to go that day, then your manhood was questioned. And you became a physical football player, whether you wanted to or not. If you did not want to, you just kind of moved on down the road.
Yeah.
You didn't fit what we were doing, and so away you went. Georgia has Bloody Tuesday, right? That's a part of their thing. If you don't think Ohio State practices physically, you're crazy. Michigan, who I know they had a down year, but they did beat the national champion, they practice physically.
Mm-hmm.
Like the teams that are good in the sport practice a physical game physically. I know it's a crazy, crazy concept, but you either learn to do it or you move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what has to happen at Nebraska. I think, and everybody's worried about attrition and guys getting hurt and that, whatever. That's going to happen. It could happen in any phase of life. So practice it, do it, live it, love it, because you signed up to play football. Football's a mean game played by mean people.
Yeah.
But if you get hurt in practice, you better have a backup for them,
mm-hmm.
and not a scramble plan. That's what a true team that's developing and building depth can do.
Burris, can't let you get out of here without asking you, first day of college baseball, how excited you are to watch Max and the boys get after it.
Yeah, baseball is my favorite sport, so I love baseball. So it's nuts. Like, I'm probably more nervous than he is. He's pretty cool, calm, but he's put in a lot of work. He had a great summer up in the Northwoods. I think he hit right around 400 and all that stuff. So had a good fall, and now you get to go out and play, which is all you can ask for. And he's getting shots. So we'll see how dear old Nebraska does on the baseball field. I think their pitching is going to be better than it's been, and that's college baseball. You got to have pitching, and if you have enough pitching, then you better get some more pitching. So excited for the boys, and they're down in warm Arizona. So I hope they get her going today and go well at 2 p.m.
Former Husker Matt Verzal here on the line. Before we get you going, I did not know, Matt, you were a massive baseball guy. That's awesome. Let me ask you a question.
Wait till opening day.
Rob, well, yeah. Who's your team? Who's your favorite baseball team in the MLB?
Oh, so You don't even listen. You don't even listen to 1620.
Matt, I started here a couple months ago.
Oh, he's gonna learn.
We haven't gotten to
verse.
baseball season with you.
Yeah. You got to ask around about me.
Okay.
No, I'm a Chicago fan all the way through. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs. So
Hell yeah.
I'm struggling a little bit as far as teams go.
You and me both, brother.
But I've been to the home opener for the Chicago Cubs for 29 straight years. So you will. This year it is on what is the 4th of April? I think it might be
It's
Friday.
a Friday.
Ooh.
It's either a Friday or Saturday. My birthday is on the April 5th, so that's typically a tradition.
Yep.
We do. We go to. So I grew up in Chicago. We go to Wrigley Field for opening day when it's around my birthday. So.
Yep. So you will be talking to me.
Yep.
A couple drinks in on Friday,
Hell yes.
April the 4th.
Hell yeah. Hey, where do you hit Murphy's beforehand, or where do you go to the Tin Roof? You go to the Old Crow. Where do you go before Wrigley?
We go to Bernie's.
Okay.
We got a good relationship with Bernie's. We like that. It's not quite as, I 29 years is a long time, probably longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
Bernie's has always been solid to us, and the rest of it's become a little bit bougie, and I'm not really bougie.
Yeah.
So we like it in there. They know us, we know them. I'm back to, the Stadium Club where there's a little bar up above.
Yeah. Oh.
Above right field. Yep.
Oh, you're in the Budweiser porch. Look at you, Matt. Attaboy.
Nope.
No? In right field?
Once the Stadium Club went away, we don't do that anymore. It was just a little tiny bar.
Okay.
Inside of Wrigley. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, no.
We make our rounds. We'll hit the Redhead Piano Bar Thursday night and get into some trouble and all that stuff. So
that's awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. Always look forward to these conversations on Friday. We'll talk to you next week. All right.
See you, Verse.
See you, boys.
See you. Matt Verzel.
Yeah,
Cubs
you
fan,
didn't
man.
know about
No,
that.
I had no clue.
Vers's opening day trips are legendary.
I had no clue.
And what's legendary is,
never told me.
Even if it was a Monday, we talked to him, and he's already 2 drinks in.
That's
and
awesome.
It's not like we talked to him at 9:45 either. This is earlier in the show some years. Yeah. He does it upright and teaches you how to do it. He's a very big advocate of the Pedialyte, as was I in college, especially those early season games. So, yeah, you'll enjoy that.
So
then again, you might be there with him if you decide to go home that weekend.
So I was going to say this has been a conversation amongst my father, because my birthday's on a Saturday, which is why I knew April 4th was on a Friday, about whether or not we might indulge and do that. So it might be a Matt and Matt call-in interview from Bernie's on April 4th.
Dan, you're not wrong about the Sox
games. That would be. Oh, we're not going to the Sox at all. The cell is better. Oh, never mind, Dan.
Yeah. You got
a joke at the end of it. Got to read the whole thing. Alrighty.
Taking a shot at Ryan
that
Fork
was
for you.
Matt Verzel.
Also, Jack, I think your friend
Joining
wants
us
you to
on-
do stuff.
Yeah, I know. Jack, my friend who's in the comments and who called in earlier.
Shout out, Jack.
Shout out, Jack. Him and I actually became friends because we both have a birthday on the same. Our birthdays are both April 5th. So that's how. Yeah, we're birthday twins, and so when we, in college, it would, April 5th was always a fun night.
Go out and play a little skee ball and have some cake and ice cream.
We were painting Lincoln scarlet red, if you know what I mean.
Can I get an extra cheese Frenchie?
Yeah, no.
DP Dough?
That was the type of night where you couldn't go to DP Dough, because DP Dough doesn't let you crawl in.
Yeah,
so
they're actually pretty strict about
Pretty
that.
strict.
Where was this?
about
I just heard DP. I was like, whoa, where's this
DP
going?
No. Jeez. All right, you know what? That's a good time to go to break.
Happy
we got the
Valentine's
last
Day,
segment
everybody.
here. Just hit the break. for those on our stream, there is a cop in the parking lot right now. Bad boys. Someone got pulled over, and there's some police activity happening in the parking lot right now.
Somebody has been detained on Mount McMaster.
Yeah, how would you like to be pulled over, and that's what you look at as your...
So there is a cop right now, and the Mount McMaster flag
is
fully front-facing the cop right now.
It's 15 degrees. He's
back
in short sleeves.
In his car.
So distracted by Mount McMaster that he was speeding on Dodge.
We have our first ever arrest right on the hilltops of Mount McMaster, right near the campsites of Mount McMaster to scale such an incredibly tall and historical mountain that lies right in front of the NRG media sign here on 50th and Dodge.
Is that a coworker of ours? I don't recognize the vehicle.
Neither do I. Who's the bad boy or bad girl?
How ironic would have been. Now he's here already. What if it had been Connor Happer?
No, Connor Happer. I did check on Happer.
That's not his vehicle. He's here.
Connor Happer is here, and he's in the building, mourning the loss of Mount Happer, in the bullpen. Obviously. But yeah, he's get Minter up and moving.
Before you go, philosopher and poet and fellow Chiefs hater Michael Severe replies to you about the fries, but the wedges. It was one of the few things I liked at KFC. The wedges were the bomb, and yes, they were a type of fry. Thank you.
Oh.
So here's the thing.
Known foodie.
No.
If they were conceived by two potatoes, they were a fry.
That is no. So I'm not talking about the KFC deep fried wedges. Those are obviously fries. I'm talking about the potatoes you get at a Greek place. That aren't fried. They're just a steamed potato that are cut into wedges.
See, that's
and you put lime on them. Because wedges, those fried, yes, those are fries.
They're literally
fries, right? So those are fries. I'm talking about the boiled and then slightly toasted potatoes, and then obviously there's some sort of Greek lime seasoning they put on there.
I always
lemon
got those
seasoning.
Grape leaves with the rice and the
with the parsley, not the cilantro, but the parsley. Are those the fries? Wedges are fries, but are those Greek potatoes fries? I think they're just Greek potatoes. Peterman is doing a lot of research right now behind the desk.
Lots of clicking and clacking. I see what you mean, though. Yeah, because I don't even think that they refer to them as fries.
You eat them with a fork.
Yeah. Unless they're covered with chili and cheese, I don't know if I can call those fries.
And I think, do they call them Greek fries, or do they just call them, what do they say on the menu?
I think Greek fries is what they are usually. Yeah, well, I don't know. These kind of
fries of
Greek
Greek descent.
Fries, and they look traditional.
You know what?
They look like regular.
They look like
French
fries with crap on them.
We got one hell of a sports weekend coming up.
We do.
Yesterday, the Four Nations Classic happened. Four Nations Classic, that's not what it's called. The Four Nations face off in the NHL.
Same
they
difference.
are their new kind of very novel way of doing the All-Star game. USA beat Finland yesterday, an absolute routing. They came out in the third period up 2-1, and they just put the pedal to the metal.
Much like Iceland and the U.S., yeah.
And then on Saturday, Canada and the USA will face off at 8 Eastern time, which will be a massive game.
You most hated rivals.
Kachuk brothers will be fighting it out there. I'm still distracted.
They got a second guy. Yeah, so we got one of the cops in short sleeve, which is, again, a flex on a very cold, windy day.
Who's all bundled up.
Yeah.
This is an interesting development that's happening.
Two
in
cops,
the
one car, one
50th
person in front
of the NRG Media Omaha parking lot right now. But then also, hey, basketball, man. We got the dual. This would be, if there was ever a weekend, if you were ever thinking, man, I should invest in YouTube TV multi-view, or I should invest in a second TV, this is the week to do it.
Okay.
As Nebraska plays Northwestern at 2, Creighton plays St. John's at 2. They're both big games for very different reasons. If Nebraska were to lose to Northwestern, that would be terrible for the NCAA tournament hopes. If Creighton were to beat St. John's, that would be incredible for their NCAA tournament seeding. Creighton at this point
I think they're going to
basically in.
Yeah.
It's kind of a done deal.
Going to go out on a limb there.
Unless they go on this historic losing streak against 5 of the worst teams of the Big East, which would be probably one of the biggest collapses I've ever seen, which is probably not going to happen because that team is way too talented and way too well coached in order to lose to Seton Hall, DePaul, and Butler. So But massive, massive game for the Blue Jays. That's at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Nebraska plays Northwestern, 2 o'clock on Sunday. You got the Daytona 500, which starts at 1:30 on Sunday. Then you're looking at, so not a ton of sports tonight, but the top 25 matchups tomorrow are incredible. 12 o'clock, Wisconsin is at Mackey Arena to play Purdue. Then Houston goes to Tucson at 1 o'clock on ESPN. They play Arizona. Then you got Mississippi State playing Mississippi on ESPN2 at 5. You got a pretty good Big Ten matchup with Michigan State playing an unranked but very close to being ranked, kind of, sort of, really talented Illinois team who seems discombobulated one night, and then the other night looks like absolute world beaters and the best team in the Big Ten. And then at 3 o'clock is kind of the main event of the entire weekend, if I'm being honest with you. Unless there's something that I'm completely omitting, as number 1 Auburn plays number 2 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. What's the line of that game? What do you guys think?
Where are they playing this?
It's in Tuscaloosa.
I'm going to go with the Elephants, 1.5.
It's 1.5. Good call, Jimmy. -1.5 for Alabama. I got a couple of tweets here. A hockey dad writes in, they seem to be called Greek potatoes. So we went to, I've shot out hockey dad, who went to a Greek restaurant menu and looked at the Euro combo and then took a picture of it and tweeted at me.
Hockey dad, what is this restaurant? Because, man, that sounds good.
Fongway writes in, when he's done, will we say McDavid is the GOAT?
Good
maybe.
question.
I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people, I haven't said it on this show, but I said during the crossover, I think Sidney Crosby is the greatest hockey player of all time. Yes, he's better than Wayne Gretzky.
Better than Gump.
I believe what I believe, okay? If we're talking about two ways of hockey and the era in which Sidney Crosby played in, which the hockey and the athleticism of the game is so much better than the era in which Gretzky played in. And Crosby has dominated and won 3 Stanley Cups and had 3 assists, this late into his career in the Four Nations Classic. And yeah, if people are like, are you judging him based off an all-star game? Yes, I am, because Sweden is a really good team. And they were playing really, really hard, and he was the number 1 star.
Definitely a more competitive competition than an all-star, regular all-star.
See, so Sal goes, Ovechkin's better than Crosby. What are we talking about? Scoring goals? Because Ovechkin's probably one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. But if we're talking about we're talking about 200 feet worth of ice, it's Sidney Crosby. And once again, this is not an argument that I'm willing to get into with 4 minutes left before we go into the
right, because he really wants to dive into it. But these are good things.
But yeah, anything else on your guys' mind before we head to the weekend? Anything that you'll be watching?
Back of my eyelids at about 2 o'clock.
I will need a little afternoon snooze. This weekend, I'm producing the first of the 2 games tonight. UNO Western Michigan.
Sorry, that's what I forgot.
Huge series, top 2 teams in the standings right now.
Yes,
in the NCHC.
We have that. We have Omaha.
Some
men's hockey. We have Omaha men's basketball tomorrow, 7 o'clock, 1180. It will be on 1180 at 6:30 for the pregame.
Yep.
They play St. Thomas in a massive game, man. If Omaha can get that win, that would be big, big, big. We forgot to ask Tim Kruger about the Mavs. I mean, it's just one of those things where it really just comes down to Summit League playoffs, and you just got to make sure that you want to be at the top of the Summit League so you can avoid having to play South Dakota State and St. Thomas twice in order to win the Summit League. That's kind of what you're trying to avoid.
I just got a text from Runza. Nothing says romance like extra fries. So thanks. Shout out to Runza for listening to the show today.
Yes. They were listening.
First of all, Frings are where it's at, but you can't go wrong.
Runza fries are great, but the ranch is overrated. Okay,
so he dives right out of here.
All right, we're gonna go an extra hour.
No.
The Connor Happer show has been delayed until noon.
It's been a great week of radio. We want to thank you so much. Shout out to Jimmy. Shout out to Gary.
Shout out
to Peterman.
Shout out to everyone
who's been here everyone's been here all week. It's
shout
been
out
good.
people.
It's been
shout
fun.
Out love.
Hey, we'll see you after a great weekend of sports on Monday. Connor Happer Show, the crossover, coming up next year on 1620 The Zone.